Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Appalachian podcast, straight from the TimcastIRL studios here in Rocky Mount, Virginia. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me is my white van man loving co-host, Simon Winch, which, of course, we all know is my favorite show on this British app I've got in here. Simon, good to see you again.
It's always good to be here. Let's make it happen.
I guess we'll go ahead and introduce our guest real quick because we're back with the Gingerbread man, John Clements. It's been a hot minute, and we got a lot of stories to go over with him. John,
how do? Yeah,
John's got the voice. You know, he's got that voice that always. If something ever happens to Simon, which probably it'll be old age at some point in time, I'm hoping John can have his ducks in a row at that point in time. He's a young dad, John's my age, but he's a young father, so we both got kids under 4. So it's really hard to coordinate now. But if we could. John and Simon have probably been my top 2 picks for anybody to ever be a co-host on this show because they're both very similar. They've well-traveled. They have a lot of stories. And when I say well-traveled, I don't mean, John's been on a cruise ship 15 times and got off at port and went to the Starbucks McDonald's. They're not like
that doesn't count.
About this show. He's been, probably every continent in the last couple of years.
I've been on 6 of the 7.
Right on.
Yeah, I haven't been to Antarctica, but yeah.
For pleasure?
I was close. Yeah, for pleasure. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Oh, a man of means. I do like it.
Well, that's part of it too. But John's always type. You can go find the outskirts. Not go find the hot hippity unless we're at Myrtle Beach and you go to the hot spot. But unless you're somewhere else, we've got those stories of going to the non-touristy stuff. So, plus John's got the voice for it and, we've got the stories and everything. So I'm
the Phileas Fogg of Franklin County, no less.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was anyway, that came out of nowhere. Left field. It's an old English thing.
Well, no, it's good, but, so it's good to have him back. We've had him on a handful of shows, and I thought today would be a good opportunity to sit here and tell some stories and do kind of like an Appalachian Appreciation Day because the world is a funny place, and I think...
Get funnier by the day.
By the second, by the way we're going right now.
With that being said, though, I think karma plays a huge part in our lives, and I think doing good and doing good by others and by yourself, things tend to turn back around. And Simon, this week is kind of one of these deals, and maybe people are wondering why we call ourselves the TimcastIRL Studios. Well, I always sit there and told myself, somebody came at me with a few grand and said, "Here, we're going to give you this money to promote us on the show," I would say, well, I mean, that's probably the best thing I can do. If you're going to give me that much for a year, is at least call yourself. Well, we had that happen this week. And the best part about it, it didn't ask for anything in return. Didn't ask to be sponsored. But I'm going to shout them out every single show for that specific reason.
Oh, yeah, you got to.
Yeah, I mean, rightly so. The man behind Timcast there, Tim Paul, has done something, that it's kind of left me speechless. And let me tell you, that is a rare occurrence.
I think that was worth it itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and wow, the motivation behind it is nothing more than an act of kindness. And I think he's got a perception of what we're trying to do here, and it marries up with his ethic. It's a great stamp of approval from a peer that we could only ever dream of getting close to. So I'm absolutely stoked.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know, we'll go ahead and try and just break it down for you. Tim Pool has a show. It's called TimcastIRL. Some people, really like him. Most people don't have a lot of issues with him. He's not really much of a fence sitter, but 10 years ago he'd be considered a lefty. Honestly, I think Bill Clinton and Obama 10 years ago be a lefty compared to what they are now. But, he's always been kind of a centrist lefty kind of guy. But I really like, but he stands his ground. He's real big on the two-way. Anyway, I tune into his show every day because he always has really interesting guests. And I kind of take some of my show away from his. I kind of mix a little bit of Rogan and a little bit of Tim Pool. I like how Rogan has just crazy, wild, different guests every single week. Now, at Timcast, their guests they do vary. And I mean, he's had Kanye on there. He's had Spike Cohen. But I'd say he's a more politically leaning show, so everybody that comes on the show, that's topical news. You're talking about what's kind of going on for the day. So you don't really get into the guests like we do. You just have awesome guests and y'all just kind of talk over the news. But it's the number one show on YouTube in this slot. It used to compete with everything but Tucker, and now, obviously Tucker's not there, so who knows what their numbers are. Primetime slot, number one most viewed YouTube show. And he also, when he releases his next day as a podcast, one of the most listened to podcasts. And what I like more than anything is they've moved to the Appalachian region up in West Virginia, and they're building a culture up there. They're bringing, they're trying to just bring decent people and decent things back to these areas and make sure they're sticking around in these areas. Whereas we're kind of doing the same thing, except we already have a base built around here. We already have a strong foundation. We've got friends and family and people been here for an awful long time. So we're kind of doing the same thing. Anyways, long story short, just on Twitter the other day goofing about, and he said, should I spend $25,000 promoting this post? I said, no, spend $5,000 promoting it and give $20,000 to us. I promise we'll spend it. Wisely. We'll do good by it. We'll do good by it. Yeah. And he's like, where do I send it? And kind of caught me. I said, wait, he replied? I said, no. I said, I shot him a screenshot of my little tab on my ex profile Twitter. I said, donate here. And that's 3 minutes later, I'm at a stoplight in a truck, and I look down. I got a notification email says Tim Pool has just dropped $3,000 in your Venmo. I said, what?
Having tried to drop 10.
Yes. Because I went back to check my messages and I'm like, dude.
They allow a certain amount at one time, don't they?
Yeah. I was like, dude, I can't accept this, and he was like, well, it's supposed to be 10, but I could only do 3. I'm like, and he said, sorry. I said, no, don't say so. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, there may be something about that with Venmo as well. And I think if you hit 10,000, you've got an IRS reporting issue.
Well, 600.
Even at 3,000, you still got one.
Well, actually, technically, 9,999 falls underneath the radar. Okay. Now, don't ask me how I know this.
Gotcha.
Because I don't want 87,000 IRS agents kicking down my door. But that basically is what's happening there, because we've been throttled by the banking system.
Yeah,
which is indirectly linked to the IRS and the voyeurism of those bastards.
Well, a lot of fraud too. It's a lot of people that are getting caught out here too.
There's, when it comes to money laundering, I get it. I mean, I think money laundering with cartels and so forth, and crime syndicates. Oh, sorry, did I mention crime syndicates? And Biden hasn't been hit with it yet. But that's what that was all designed around. And unfortunately, the IRS has had a major impact on international banking and transparency that has impacted nationally. So much so that, the Swiss now quake in their boots. And I think the only bank, the banking nation that has given the US the middle finger is the country of Liechtenstein, which actually was the how do I put this delicately? They told the Swiss how to do offshore banking. So Liechtenstein knows how to do it. Now, anyone with smart money, but if you have smart money and it's in Liechtenstein, that is actually a red flag in itself. But Liechtenstein has swung round and given the IRS and how they police international banking, they've given them the middle finger, and quite rightly so. It's a pretty hot topic, and the guys with mega wealth know how to hide money.
What about Grand Cayman? Are they?
Well, Grand Cayman actually. Now I used to live there. Grand Cayman had one of the biggest police presence per capita in the world. And their police presence wasn't boots on the ground, bobbies on the street, walking the streets. It was, really a computer room with a load of cops in there looking at financial crime. So Grand Cayman pretty much got shut down with some of their banking protocols, which at a certain point in time were very questionable.
Gotcha, yeah.
But now you've got places like Belize, Turks and Caicos, in fact, and all these offshore, Isle of Man, Guernsey, Jersey, all these offshore elements have been brought into line by the muscle of US regulation. Now, when you cast that net, I just disagree with it. People should be able to do whatever they please. If they're running, against a policy in the US, but they've got money offshore, because the IRS are thieves. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. So, and
I wish I had enough money to put in an offshore account to have those problems.
there's, I've got to be careful about implicating myself. There's smart ways of doing it. It's a very complex theatre, and the US has put an undue amount of effort in trying to crush that international banking with regards to client money. And I don't know whether that's the right thing to do, a wrong thing to do, but if you view taxation as theft, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just not right.
Yeah, I think that's why they're trying to go to cashless society anyway. Before too long, they're going to be monitoring what you send on Venmo, Cash App, and everything, and you're going to have to answer for the $25 I sent you for pizza. They're going to want to say, "Hey, that's income," and you're going to eventually they're going to want to collect some.
It's all about greed. And when you look at that and how the tax system works, it is greed. I think it's unwarranted. I think it's illegal in the way that they can get into client accounts. There's so many different angles to it. There's a right and a wrong and what have you. But like I say, if you view taxation as theft, and look at all the tax revenue that the US does get when it comes to meal tax, property tax, bed tax, fuel tax, you name it, all the taxations that have been accrued, particularly over the last 40 years, it's a very insidious, unpleasant experience because we all disagree with how they spend it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the problem, so it becomes a bottomless pit that they can keep digging into. Once you get your hand in the cookie jar, all bets are off, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you about one right here in Franklin County.
Come on.
Okay, we just sold our lake house. We used to Airbnb it out. Well, Franklin County.
In Bedford or in Franklin County?
In Franklin County.
Oh, I'm surprised you were allowed to do it.
Well, they're coming down on that. But
that's a disgrace in itself.
But what they did was
supervisors.
We got a tax bill for $330 for personal property tax on our furniture.
Oh, piss off.
Yep, for the appliances and the furniture from Franklin County. Had to pay that.
You're kidding.
Nope. They implemented that.
Do that. Actually, they did that with knives and forks from an Airbnb.
Yeah, that was that too. See, what happened was when we first did it, we were trying to get the write-off and everything to, for the first year, you're trying to show everything. So, of course, we reported because we had to buy all new furniture.
Yep.
Everything was brand new. So, we reported exactly.
Depreciable.
Yeah, exactly what we did. What we had to pay was for the furniture, silverware, for the appliances, for all the furniture in the house. We had to pay, it was $330 a year. And then when we sold it, they still tried to make us pay. We're like, look, we don't own the property anymore. And we had to go jump through hoops with Franklin County to prove that we didn't own it. It's like, you know who owns it now. you see who owns it. You see it's not us, but we had to go and show and do that with Franklin County to get them to take it off.
There's one word that covers this, and you can apply this as you wish. The word is racketeering. That's exactly what's going on right there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you're trying to do something, it was a big investment to get started in. And it's like every time you try to do something to try to get some traction, they figure out a way how to come in there. Hey, let's
give me my piece of pie.
And I think that's part of the reason why Franklin County's trying to do away with it. I think, when I used to drive Uber, we couldn't pick up at the airport. Same reason. There are fees that each rider, when you get picked up from the airport now, pays to the airport. And Roanoke Regional.
You're shitting me.
Nope, Roanoke Regional wasn't getting their cut in the beginning. And so once Uber got it worked out, we're allowed to pick up. But yeah, that's all it is. I think if Franklin County or Bedford, whoever, starts getting a cut from the Airbnb, that fee, it'd be all fine and dandy. Look how much money that people are bringing when they come in. I mean, ours stayed rented during the summer months. We couldn't even go down there. It was rented all the time. Think about the people coming in.
Yeah, and the spin-off business from behind, bringing people that actually have no investment other than paying their tax on that. They're not putting any pressure on the school system. They're not putting any pressure really on all the systems that we get taxed for as residents.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So it's free money, really.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is such a hot topic that really,
because people living out of their suitcases, like you say, they barely. I mean, there wasn't a scratch the whole time we rented it. Nobody scratched even a single wall. So, like you say, the people aren't having impact on the house. They're having impact. They're just bringing money.
Yeah,
and swimming in the water.
It in the grocery stores. They're spending it maybe at the Harvester. They're doing it at all the restaurants. Is that not enough?
Boat rentals, everything.
Is that not enough?
Yeah, that was a big one.
And this is where that greed factor comes in with any form of taxation. You have no right to something that I've created. You've got enough revenue coming in, and your waste is absolutely disgusting. Yeah. The Maybe way you fritter money away. Mm-hmm. Oh, I need 200. Here's another 250 grand on a consultancy fee for a development project. Blah blah blah. Well, I've got some real issues with it.
Well, not today. Let's just jump back to the top before we got off on this tangent about the IRS.
Bloody taxation.
$3,000 from the TimcastIRL. So I implore every one of you that are listening. Look, I know we do a show once a week.
Check him out.
Go check them out. They do a nightly show. You can catch them on YouTube. They do an after-hours show as well for members only. They have a website out there where you can get. They're like A certified news organization, so they do have news. Well, he also does another show during the day. There's a handful of shows his whole company does, and most of them are really, really good. Like he has a few that come out once a week, some that come out once a day, but it's always really good content. I always like the 8 o'clock show. I think it's at 8 o'clock. Like I said, they've had guests like Donald Trump Jr., Marjorie Taylor Greene, Kanye came on there.
Well, he's got clout.
Well, exactly, and he made his reputation by just taking his camera and going to places nobody else would go. He started off with Vice News, really interesting stuff, going to the crazy places back when Vice was cool. Then he's been a man of his conviction and morals, and he always seems to be somebody who gives everybody a fair shake, and I kind of appreciate it. I don't always agree with him politically, but I don't agree with anybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
Everything exactly. I like that.
You said it, Simon.
He's trying. All he wants to do is build the culture. He's trying to bring small town America essentially back. So we're kind of on the same page with that. So I implore everybody, go out there, watch him, check it out. It's a great show. I listen to it every day in the truck, and super massive thank you to them. Like it really struck me. I'm trying to think what I'm going to do with some of the money, and
hell of a gesture.
Yeah,
hell of a gesture.
How I'd like to improve upon this show, and do a few things, and I guess that kind of can segue us into what I wanted to talk about a little bit next. Some other big news is, and this is kind of coordinate. I guess that kind of ties in together because Simon and I might be heading to Washington D.C. here in the very near future. And
the nest of vipers. Oh, are they ready for us?
We will see. So since we haven't said it yet, for anybody that actually wants to subscribe and support us, go to patreon.com/getontap. Simon, I promise you, he has started to work on the X, Twitter, whatever here for the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping maybe the next week or two we can get on and do our first spaces. I'm going to text message Spike and a couple people and figure out. But he's on there now. He's starting to get the hang of it. And that way we can add some of that content over there because it's just so hard to be able to bring in an extra show a week with all the equipment, all the setup, and getting Simon. We're all busy. So if I could just get him on spaces, we can almost have any guest on there to come on, have a little conversation, release it to you. But if you go to Appalachian, or if you go to patreon.com/getontap and you do subscribe, then you are supporting us and supporting some of the things we're doing here. If you just want to give a one-time donation, Cash App at Get On Tap and Venmo at Get On Tap, or WB Riddle on PayPal, because a lot of people give us one-times, and we appreciate all of you out there who do that. I've got a few this week that added on top of what Tim Pool did, so I appreciate all of you that have done that. We're taking that money, and we're going to try and go to D.C. So anyway, for subscribers, once again, last time it's patreon.com/getontap or at GetOnTap for any of the payment services for a one time. And we take that money, we do put it back into things. We go and we spend money at our, taking some of our guests to local restaurants and renting the spaces out. That way, they gain a reputation, and we take that money and we use it on fuel. And going up to DC, I promised everybody, I said, if you invest in us, then good things are going to come. And our big deal back in the springtime was Spike. I said, let's knock this out of the park. Let's make it happen. And that's exactly what we did. The money that was generously donated by all you people, and we'll talk about all y'all, for the night's over with. But, we took that money, we developed a really strong relationship. And now, back and forth with him every week. He went to bat for us on Tim Pool a couple weeks ago before any of this really ever happened, because I'd sent him a what they call a super chat. So if you do your show on YouTube, people can pay $5 or $6, $1, how much they want or how much. And, they pay you a super chat and they say something and you might get lucky and they read it off air. Well, I made sure I sent $100 in. I said, I want Spike to say our name on this show. And he did. And he had a little conversation afterwards. Then went to bat for us, said, man, y'all should really get them on the show. I don't know if those two things tied together, but what I do know is we've developed a really good relationship with him and his people now. But because we worked really hard, we knocked our socks off. They're wanting Simon and I, one of the guys that works for him has another nonprofit, and this nonprofit, they're going to be doing Students for Liberty up in DC in February. And since Brian had such a good time with us here, he wants to take us and bring us up and feed us guests. We're talking former congressmen, big economists, big Bitcoin millionaires is what he was kind of explaining to us. So anybody that subscribes or does donate a little bit, that stuff like that's what it's going towards. Now we get to go up there. We're going to be looking for sponsors for that weekend too, because we're going to have some really, really big names. We want to get people's names out there. But aside from all that, we're going to go up there and make a lot of connections. And when things go right, Spike and his whole team want to come back into Franklin County, and this is by his team, not him. They've been telling me these things. They want to come back up in here and do a retreat, bring the whole entire team here. And what are they going to do when they bring the retreat here? They're going to bring people that are going to spend money. They're going to stay in Airbnbs. They're going to go to restaurants. And that's the beginning. More and more people that we have on the show, we're going to develop these relationships with. We're going to start building. We're going to start having the Morris Hotel downtown open to have, little conferences going on there and bring our guests and say, what I'm trying to get to is people invested in us, you're getting your return. We are bringing people to Franklin County. We're bringing attention to this area. We're bringing visitors from out of town, and they're spreading the word. So I'm excited about this DC trip, Simon. I don't know about you.
I'm actually a little bit anxious about it. It makes me a little bit nervous, and I'm not normally a guy who suffers with nerves. But I think the networking that we get from this with the message that we're all, looking to improve our communities locally is a great message. And all these guys support that, and they recognize that working from the ground roots up is the way that we can affect change. And that really does reflect on, and I can I can say this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, with our school board, with our town council, with the economic development, whatever they are, and of course the board of supervisors. And we know they're all listening in one way, shape or form or other. And the impacts that we can bring is a positive change for Franklin County, because this is a great place to live. And let's stop the shenanigans. Let's just be upfront. Let's be transparent. I think we're going. I'm going to give Holland a little bit of credit where credit's due. He's trying to do that, and it's an uphill struggle, particularly with the way the economic development situation is framed. So I'll give him credit where credit's due. He's definitely impacting the town of Rocky Mount.
I think I know what you mean by what you just said, how it's framed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's we can all make this a better place when we work together, and not fall for the narrative and the divisiveness that may be coming out of Richmond, that is certainly coming out of DC. But if we work together, we are so powerful. Yeah. And that's where we need to be.
Well, and when you all send us up to DC, we're going to be going up there not only as ambassadors of Appalachia, but ambassadors to Franklin County. And we sit down with these people. I've got full confidence, just a handful of minutes in front of Simon, and they're going to raise their eye. Well, Moonshine Capital sounds pretty fun. So, let's maybe we should go down there and hang out with them sometime and see what it's all about. And you get more, like I said, it's building that repertoire. It's building this place into a little small mini destination of people who want to get away into the mountains, but still have a pretty good time. Because we have a wonderful town, and the thing about the students, Brian was on the phone with me actually explaining it to me and telling me some of the big names that are
now,
there.
Now explain Brian. This isn't Brian from the Burger Company.
No, this is Brian. This is Spike Cohen's right hand man, kind of. He works with him on You Are the Power. By the way, if you got a little bit of money, you want to do a donation over there, You Are the Power. We're going to start working with them a little bit. Grassroots campaigns to start getting more liberty minded people elected to local areas. That's Spike's big thing. And Brian also works with Students for Liberty. Now, Students for Liberty, he said it's going to be a lot of international students there. I'm like, well, that's great because Simon has been all over the world. So if even you can snack up a couple of them, they're probably going to find some kind of story they're going to be able to relate to. He was like, you're going to be kids from Africa, maybe kids from the South Pacific, and they're going to have stories of maybe, getting beat by cops, crazy. And Simon's been in a lot of these areas, so who's going to be able to relate to them? So not just them.
I've been beaten up by a couple of cops as well in those areas. But
probably well deserved.
Maybe more than likely, actually.
But either way, so we've got that end, and we've got all the the prominent names that'll be up there as well. So I think it's going to be a really good time. We've already talked to some people about places to stay, maybe taking a camper up there to not have to spend so much. We'll figure that part of it out. But we're also going to be joined.
I've got peeps in DC. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, good. We all do. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be good. I know Simon's CIA contacts are up there, so he could probably get us. He could probably get us a room at the Capitol building somewhere if we wanted to.
Pentagon City.
Oh no, I don't want to be any part of that, man. If you walk in there, you're in trouble.
So it's So we're going to make up our. Also, I think we're going to be joined by our buddy Chip Slate from Being Libertarian, who's also spent some time up there at that convention. So we're going to have somebody who's got not only a reputable name and
super smart guy,
but has been there before, knows how to work with these people, has a massive following on social media. So we're going to build a team. There's going to be a couple more of us that I think go because I really want to put on a show. My wife is she really highly motivated for me to cut off my mullet before we make this trip, and I don't know what to think of that. She seems almost irritated by it at this point in time.
You know what, Billy? I hate to say this on air. I don't know whether you should be cutting the mullet off, man. It's a great representation.
That's what I try and explain to her. I'm like, the thing is it, when people see it, they're especially in the places they're going to see it, right, John?
Mm-hmm.
If I go up there to that convention in DC, they're going to see it. They're like, well, he's not out of place, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go up and see what he's got to say. Well, obviously he's not stupid when they hear me talk. So it's probably just a gimmick, but they remember it. Nobody else up there is going to have a damn mullet.
They'll be describing it. You'll be like, hey, you remember that guy with the mullet?
Yes.
They'll be like, oh yeah, the guy with the mullet. Yeah, that's how they're going to remember you.
Or they're going to say, what about the guy in the suit? Or which one? Everybody up there was wearing slacks and a tie and stuff.
Not
these guys.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah, the guy with the mullet, the British guy, and the redneck.
They'll know. Like, oh, okay.
What could possibly go wrong?
I don't know. It's going to be a blast. So
you just got to be yourself. I mean,
well, I think it's gotten us this far.
Yeah.
Well, the pretentiousness of DC is everyone is sick to their back teeth of it, right? Mm-hmm. So we know the shenanigans that continues to go on up there, despite all of us knowing what's going on, and they just carry on regardless. So, I want to let them know we will ultimately hold you accountable.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going to bring about that specific trip, but I'm super excited about it. And once again, it just goes back to the point to where if anybody's invested in us, whether you're a subscriber, whether you've given us a one-time donation, whether you've hooked us up with things in the past, and like we're doing exactly what we set out to do, and I think we're doing it a lot faster than I ever anticipated. So thank you all for everybody out there that does support us, that does subscribe, that shows up, that listens, that tells other people about the show. That's the best way to do it. Word of mouth.
The following that we have now, I mean, I'm getting knocked down in the street. It's just like, you're that Appalachian podcast guy. And that's becoming very, very frequent. And we're definitely a recognized force locally with what we're trying to do. And that is a good thing, I think, for the community, because we certainly can't get it from, the local news, the Franklin Post or the Roanoke Times or all those clowns.
Well, you're never going to get the long form discussion either. You know, they can come interview John and ask him a handful of questions. And most likely what they'll do is they'll ask John about 10 questions.
And chop it down.
Then they'll chop it down. Then to add some flavor to the story, they'll probably go pull up like his arrest record or something like
what
that.
They'll do is they'll take the answers that they like that I gave, and that's the ones they'll show.
Oh, yeah.
And
this
meet
is
their agenda.
This is where the power of the podcast, and I'm not talking about the Appalachian podcast, I'm talking about podcasts in general, is actually generating so much interest with content that we are making mainstream media redundant. And that does include the local media that doesn't support I think some of the opinions that they need to share. So we're not seeing journalism in its raw light. I mean, this is very clipped what we're getting locally. So the podcast to me it's a great tool for expression, and that's a good thing. This is the transparency that we're talking about. Now, if we're the naysayers and we start calling people out or highlighting issues locally, well, rightly so. These should have been brought up and about with web pages that these entities run and local journalists should be covering, but they're not. And case in point would be the Rocky Mount Town Council web page and the local news media. I mean, it's...
Well, I think our local government around here is paying I couldn't imagine, maybe 6 figures towards some of these Facebook pages, like Visit Virginia Blue Ridge and all that stuff. I mean, and I've said this before on this show, what have they done to bring people to this area that we haven't done tenfold? And I'm not asking the Board of Supervisors or anybody to turn around and throw us any money. What I'm saying is stop paying them and take that money and give it back to the rest of the citizens of this, because you don't need it. Like, we're not getting paid anything here. Now, the fringe benefits have been kind of nice, and the connections we've made, I wouldn't trade for nothing. And being able to sit down and tell stories with friends like John, who I've known for 25 years. We'll get into some of them for the night's over with. And, stories from Simon, from his past, like, all the people we've had on the show and have had an opportunity to tell their journey. Like, I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. Now my kids have hours and hours and hours, and my grandkids for it to go back and listen to hear some of our stuff one day. John's the same. We've got such a responsibility at this point in time to continue going forward. And I'm dumbfounded by the impact we've been able to make. And, and it's not just the impact not just the connections and things we've made, but, the impact we've made on somebody like, another shout out, Melvin's Farm to Fork. They're having their open house down there next week, so I implore everybody to go and check them out on Facebook and go down to the open house.
Where's that?
It's down there off of Peters Pike, down in Burnt Chimney. It's right off 116. So they've got you go in there, they've got a nice little store, local beef, local produce, local chicken. They've got cheeses, they got some coffees, all kinds of cool stuff.
They're rocking it. They are absolutely rocking it.
And if you buy into the milk share, you can also get the raw milk, which I encourage people to do if you have the opportunity. It's it's delicious. So, but there's many places just like hers popping up all over the place. You need to go support because where your food's coming from. It's fresh, and you're keeping the money locally. And
just for one more cycle.
After she was on the show, they said she had like the second best day of sales she's ever had that Saturday after being on the show. Buddy, we send as many people as possibly can to Rocky Mount both Rocky Mount Smokehouse and Brian at Rocky Mount Burger Company. Both places have been good for people that come into this town, from musical acts going to the Harvester down to people coming in from this show. People on the internet all the time, hey, I'm coming through Rocky Mount, where should I go? I say both of them because they've both been an integral part.
That's the first time I ate at Rocky Mount Burger Company was during the fantasy draft, and that food was on point. I was pleasantly surprised. You've been there? Yeah, it's the first time I've been there.
Well, and here's the funny irony behind that is there was something local that came out from the town council. And it was some form of press release or other, and Rocky Mount Burger Company was excluded from that, so they were like shadow banned.
Well, I think that was apparently one of the top 5 places to get a drink, and I think they were featuring something else.
I hadn't rate there
down the road. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but no less, there's good food and good drinks at both of those places. Buddy just got done having the big deal for Josh Owens from the Moonshiners. Brian's always got big names from the Harvester coming over there. So And you know what? And we'll give a attaboy to the Harvester for at least getting 49 Winchester coming New Year's. That's going to be a 3-night run. We'll reach out to try and get those guys on the show. I think they've got Lewis Black, a comedian, coming here in the near future. They're not putting as many acts on, and I'm still not really pleased with anything else other than the fact that there are a couple of decent shows that they have booked. But so
they are definitely uplifting their game. Okay.
Yes.
I would still like to see transparency.
I would still like to see somebody other than the government running the place. I would like to see Brian has offered to pay to manage it and run it, give him the opportunity to get out of the hands of the town government. They have no business. That's like me going in and trying to run a shoe factory. I don't even got no idea how to make shoes. You know what I mean? Just let them focus on
again,
the
it's that lack of transparency with the funds that, have been shuffled around, how many shell companies that are now private that you can't FOIA. And there's that element of shenanigans that still remains with the Harvester. I know they put out some numbers recently about 1.2 million in ticket sales, but you've still got to look a little bit deeper into that as well. Dare I say it? Because the number of tickets and the money that was generated, I've got a bit of an issue as to how that added up.
Well,
but they're making inroads. They are definitely. Where am I going with this?
They're doing something.
They're improving their presence
slightly. It has gotten somewhat better. Then I guess that's better than I would have probably hoped for. John, have you ever been there much? Have you got to see anything there?
I went to see Bob Marley and the Wailers there a few years ago when they came, but I haven't really been there. I would have went and seen Terry Clark. Didn't know she was there until after I saw people post pictures on Facebook.
That would have been Ziggy Marley.
Yeah.
Ziggy. Yeah, sorry. It's Ziggy. Yeah, Ziggy.
Get some tickets for that 49 Winchester show on New Year's because we're going to be going. Y'all can stay here if you want to. It's just right down the road. It's going to be a really good time, I think. They're from Russell County, which is down there right next to where Tara's from in Virginia, and they're going to be probably this time next year, I would say they'll be one of the biggest bands in the country.
And think about also what else is going on at the Social House. They've opened up their basement live performance area there. I forget what it's called. Is it the Alley Cat? No, I forget what it's called.
I haven't made it by yet.
But they've got a fantastic little venue in the basement.
You talking about in Roanoke 202?
No. In Rocky Mount, the Social House,
just right up here. The old Sugar Shack, just right above the house. Across from the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Used to be the Pendleton building where they did birthing and all that kind of stuff. Now they've turned it into like a swanky Simon kind of joint where you go in and you got wine and beer and that's it. But little cheeses and stuff, a European kind of.
Charcuterie, please.
There you go. A Chattahoochee board.
But they're moving and shaking with performers now. And that could be a spin-off, again, that the Harvester is going to benefit from. Because an act comes in on a Friday and Saturday, but they could do a prelim on a Thursday night with a small crowd, 100 plus, in that particular environment. Now the environment down there, I had the tour there recently, and I went down there and I thought, man, if this was like the Cavern Club in Liverpool, this would be it. There's a vibe down there that is great. So I wish them all the luck in the world. I still haven't been to Anastasia's yet.
Nor have I.
And I feel as though, we need to to make a qualified opinion, we definitely need to have an evening there.
I'm gonna say I've been there.
So
Anastasia Speakeasy.
Yeah, the Speakeasy. So we are moving and shaking as a town. There's no question about it. As a county, I think there's a long way to go. But again, if we can impact that direction, I think good things can come of it. So yeah, I mean it's
John. We need to get you back to Franklin County. I think
I
we
do.
Need.
I come up here, go to my dad's house. That's usually about. I'm usually up here on business.
It's not that far, but I mean, when you got family over, it's hard to, because you want to be around them. It's hard to get them back and forth. But we need you back over here. We're making a strong push here. We got, like Simon said, so many good. I mean, and even if you do want to dip into Roanoke, where you have so many cool areas and music venues in the greater Roanoke Valley area as well. Shout out to our friends at Safe Side Tactical over there. If you want to go over there, got an indoor range right there downtown. We encourage.
I will always be behind Tyler at 5 points.
That as well.
What he's doing there is phenomenal.
They had something over there the other day. I drove by there. They had something going on out in the street.
Yeah. I've got an enormous amount of respect for Tyler and what he's achieving there. It's not what he's trying to do. He's doing it.
And he's doing it well.
And it really is. It's world class what he's got going on there. It's that impactful.
Yeah, I mean, you could go out there in a day in Roanoke. You slide over there, go to Safe Side Tactical, buy you some ammunition, maybe even buy your weapon, take it out to the range, fire it a few times, go get your bite to eat somewhere downtown, and then make it over to Tyler's at 5 points for a show. I mean, we've got so much in this area to offer. And not just Franklin County, but I mean, I want people to come in here and understand if you want to come here for a nice rural country getaway, we got you covered. But if you want to come here and also, dabble in a little bit of the city life, Roanoke's 30 minutes away, and there's a lot of good stuff downtown, a lot of great restaurants, music venues. Elmwood Park, we were there last week or a few weeks ago. That was a really good time.
Lou's Restaurant, if you go to 5 points, Lou's Restaurant is walking distance. That place is phenomenal.
Used to be over there off of Brandon, didn't it?
Yeah.
Is that the same place?
I think so. It's right there off the corner of Maple
I know what you're talking about.
and Walnut. On Walnut there.
Yeah. It's a really good place. I used to eat there when
And then Athens Corner Grill, too. That's a really good place if you like Greek food.
Tara likes that place.
It's within walking distance of the 5 points.
See, that's why John knows all the swanky places in down. That's why him and my wife get along well. Because
There we go.
what's it, Nawabi?
Nawab.
Oh,
Nawab, yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
That we've been going there for really ever since we moved here and we found Nawab.
Mm-hmm.
The Indian cuisine from Nawab it's
genuine. I've said that's the most genuine. Have you been to India?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so yeah, when we were there, I'll tell people. Other than if you go to India, the only difference is if you order a dish in India with chicken in it, you get the full piece of chicken. They don't cut the breast, they don't cut
bones
the
and all.
so the bones and all. So other than that, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Exactly. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more refined. Now, when I went to India, I went on the east coast, so I was on the Bay of Bengal side. And the oil company was footing the bill, and they actually had a curried lobster on their menu, and it was a tandoori lobster of some description. So we went for it. And the authenticity from genuinely cooked Indian cuisine, it was just superb. And it's difficult to replicate. Because
the ingredients here are different than what you're getting over there. Yeah.
But I've also found there's a little place behind the Jiffy Lube in Roanoke, which is it's not Electric, it's the other side. Is that Jefferson? Darn it, I can't remember. Instead of turning left to Panera.
Oh, you're talking about that's
you're turning.
That's Franklin
right.
Road. That's Franklin Road.
It's Franklin.
Okay.
So it's a Jiffy Lube on Franklin. There's
it's right there. It's as soon as you get on Franklin, it's on the left. It's
tucked behind.
Yeah.
Jiffy Lube, and it's run by an Indian chap, Taste of Asia. And you go in there and you're not quite sure what's going on. You're just overwhelmed with scent and just a ramshackle run kind of business. But they've got everything with Asian and Indian cuisine. Everything you can imagine, all the different flours, all the spices. Oh, I mean, you name it, they got it. And that's where I get all of my spices and ingredients for my Indian cuisine that I love. And they do a great job. They do a great job. So if you're looking to enhance your Indian palate, that is definitely where you're going to get some of the more off-the-wall spices, you know, black cardamom.
Well, if you're also looking for the Asian persuasion, what's it called? City Corner over there off of Plantation. You wouldn't, I mean, right when the Plantation gets down there to two lanes, when you turn off of 460, right there, got about a mile, right where not long after it goes to 2, it's right there on the right. And we went over there a couple of times with Tara, and man, it's like I said, she's expanded my palate, and I'm sure probably you know, traveling a lot probably expanded your palate more than anything. It's
for sure. And the fact that we've got so many distilleries and microbreweries kicking up and about, living proof beer. What?
There's a couple that opened up in Vinton too. You know, new places, restaurants, and
but living proof beer here. I mean, their venue is superb. Their view is superb. When the town does get to make the trail up to that property from the corner there, it's just going to bring everything together.
Speaking of which,
we love it.
Which brought up a brewery, I guess. Did I hear right that Chaos Brewery was shutting down?
It better not be.
I'm pretty sure. I thought.
I haven't heard anything.
Has nobody heard that?
Oh, hell no.
Go, y'all talk. Let me look this up real quick.
I'm going to give a shout out to a local restaurant in Vinton that I discovered here a few months ago. Big Belly Pizza. You guys ever want to get a steak and cheese sub that will absolutely... The first time I had one, my cousin bought me one. She had it delivered. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to eat this while I'm driving home. I had to pull over. I kid you not. I called her. I had to pull over. That's how good that steak and cheese sub was. And
that's a zinger.
Yeah, I was afraid I was going to have an accident, so I had to pull over at the store.
Cheryl Witcher, that runs
Ella's Eats.
Eats. She's come up with something. She originally did a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, but now she's done it as a Philly cheesesteak. What the hell do they call it? For the life of me. Anyway, the new Philly cheesesteak that she's doing,
it's got to be good. I had the old one, and
the old
Chaos,
one was off the chart. The new one is like
too.
It's like a Chinese roll.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! I mean, and she's shaking. I mean, she's got it rolling. That girl has a work ethic. And again with local roots.
Mm-hmm. We went to school together. I think she graduated with Billy, but she graduated with you. Yeah.
No, she was a year behind.
Yep, 90.
And she actually put us in touch. Yeah. We have an old log cabin on our property that was relocating from Sidnesville, and the lady that used to live there had 10 kids. I forget the lady's name. She was the daughter of a former slave. She had 10 kids in this cabin. It was relocated. The family subsequently didn't know what had happened to this cabin from this lady. She lived to the age of 106, or was it 116, in different statistics that have been thrown out there. But I've got all the clippings. And anyway, Cheryl came up and she did a July the 4th, year before last, and suddenly realised that was the cabin and she knew all the relatives of this lady, and they all thought that the cabin had, collapsed and had been burned or what have you. It's actually relocated on my property. And then to have that connection with her while she was doing these amazing Philly cheese sandwiches on July the 4th 2 years ago, it was just a great thing that she was able to put together. That was so-and-so's cabin. I still know the family. They thought the cabin had, just collapsed and had fallen into the ground, where it's actually live and direct. This is where we do some of our studio work up at the farm at my place. It was great, know. When I just said, well, bring them up. Show that the cabin is still here. It still functions. We use it, for a studio, Party City Central. We got a pizza oven out there, barbecue facilities. He's by an old, our new barn, and it's just the atmosphere from that cabin alone is awesome. I mean, it dates to the 1870s. Was relocated in 1980, I believe, from a pharmacist in Roanoke that we bought the property from, and it's just a great feature on our property. So to have that connection is great, and to reconnect. So that's awesome.
You can have anything out of. I forgot to tell you that. If you want anything,
Yeah.
there's Coke Zero and beer, and that's about it. Maybe some water.
Gotcha.
Got some. I'm gonna tell you what. As far as I'm concerned, this Bill Elliott rye whiskey, I've been sitting on it. This is pre-COVID rye whiskey right here. I've got it when we went down a few years ago for an Indian wedding. wife talk about Indian food, how good it is. After this is how, in the words of Simon, how much of a heathen I am. My wife takes me down to this beautiful Indian wedding. And if you've ever been to one, I've said this before on the show, that's like a 3-day affair. I mean, they go on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a whole big to-do, great food. It's just a big party. But I said, all right, if I'm going to go down there and go to this wedding, then on the way back, and I'm talking PGA golf course, everybody there is Ivy League. I'm the biggest rube in the entire room. As far as a piece of paper is concerned, let me just say real quick, I sat down and I listened to a lot of conversations those Ivy League people were having in there. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'd about rather run my ding-a-ling over a cheese grater and hang out with them more than 15 minutes. I mean, people around here are so much more real. I've just, high school dropouts, people, I mean, they're just so much more interested. I mean, I guess they were nice enough, but it seemed like they kind of liked the smell of their own farts. Anyway.
I know what you're talking about.
Pretentious.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, because we met at Harvard and we met at Columbia. I'm like, well, where'd you go? Well, I had about a 2.5 at Radford with my political science degree. And I'm going to tell you what, I had one hell of a time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I told her, I said, all right, if I go down there for this, then on the way back through, we got to stop in Dawsonville, Georgia. Where the f is Dawsonville, Georgia? Of course, is what she's thinking. Well, it's a hometown of Bill Elliott.
Dawsonville from Dawson.
Damn
That's what I
right.
was going to say.
NASCAR champion, my favorite driver growing up. And you've got the Dawsonville Pool Hall down there that makes these awesome burgers. I've known about this place for 40 years, as long as I've been alive. They got the Georgia Hall of Fame down there, Racing Hall of Fame. So I was like, we'll make, an afternoon of it. I wanted to go to the pool hall and watch a little bit of the race. And so we went down. That's what she agreed to. Unfortunately, I didn't have the mullet at the time, but, got to go in there, visit the town, go to the pool hall. And outside of the Hall of Fame, they had a distillery. And I went in there, and me and the guy had some conversations, and I decided to get me a little bit of rye whiskey. I'm going to tell you what, it is delicious. I didn't know what to expect. But if you ever get a chance, you're down at Dawsonville Distillery, maybe it's what it is. I don't know, but it's called the Bill Elliott Rye Whiskey, and it is smooth. Take a swig, Simon. Let me know what you think.
Brace yourself. The cork has just been popped. I'm now sniffing the bouquet.
Taking it in.
Oh, here it is.
It is smooth. I was not expecting that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, goodness. You could get in trouble on that. Oh, yeah. That's pretty darn good.
I was kind of knocked sideways by it. But I remember getting a conversation with the guy we were talking about moonshine, and I was like, yeah, I'm from the moonshine capital of the world. And he kind of giggled and said, well, he said, I think that might go to us down here. I said, why do you think that? And he said, well, because at this point in time or whatever, we had the most busted stills in the country. I said, well, that just means you're the worst at not getting caught. I said, because we probably had a whole lot more never got busted that you knew nothing about.
We had the biggest anyway.
Oh, yeah, the biggest, the baddest. We had the most. What did they say? During the Prohibition, 99 out of 100 people in the town were one way, shape, or form involved. Either they were making it, they were selling supplies for it, they were running it, they were drinking it. Right, the only people weren't were the priests, and some of them were. So
yeah, don't hold your breath.
So we got in that conversation, like, no, we're the moonshine. And we've had this conversation, big shout out to Lost Choice Distillery. Henry Lee Law, he's been a integral part of this show. He's come on here a handful of times and told us some wonderful stories. Spike came up, he took us down there to the still site, showed us around, and he makes a really good product too. And like we've talked with him before, there's something about the water up through here, too, that I think can make it taste better. You could make moonshine out in Oklahoma, but the water ain't going to taste the same. It's something about this mountain water up here.
Well, that's why, most of the distilleries, down to bourbon is made down in Kentucky. They get that Lime Springs down there?
Yeah, Lime Springs.
Yeah.
And that story it threads through history. Guinness definitely tastes different in Ireland because it's made from the water of the River Liffey. There's no question about it.
I've heard the same about Heineken.
And a lot of stuff.
Same with Heineken, actually. I'm a Heineken. I used to drink volumes of Heineken in Amsterdam. And it definitely is a different flavour. So, just because you've got the franchise and the distribution and all that good stuff, it may not be the same product.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that because quality will always, what do you say about sinking ships?
a loose lips sink journey. I say a rising tide raises all
It's
ships.
the rising tide.
Yes.
Well, the rising tide of quality will always, break through. You can try and replicate, but when you're not using the ingredients from where it was originally from, you're going to have a different product. Even if it's minuscule, it's going to be a different product.
Yeah.
So we've got something special around here. We've always known this anyway.
Well, I didn't find anything on Chaos, so maybe that's just an ugly rumor.
Oh, I hope so. Let's dispel
I haven't
it.
seen anything on either pages, because if that were to happen, though, I think what we'd need to do is all get together collectively as a county and say, look, Board of Supervisors, we are done with your shenanigans and your nonsense and your wasteful spending. So we're going to take whatever tax money you had for whatever stupid project you were going to use, and we're going to encourage Sterling to come back and reopen Callaway Brewing Company and put him in that spot, but also put him back in the spot by your house for the outpost.
Oh, yes.
That's exactly. John, did you ever get a chance to go up to Sterling's?
Mm-mm.
Oh, man.
Oh, dear. We there was some wild times up there. And I met Sterling. Sterling was back in town. Was it last weekend? And we had a little moment. I said, listen, mate, your porter and your amber was just untouchable. And I saw a twinkle in his eye, so never say never is all I'm going to say there about Sterling.
By
and
the way,
Callaway
also,
Brewery.
for anybody that wants to support us at patreon.com/getontap, the more you support us here, like I stated earlier, the more we get out there and make connections, and the more we're going to find somebody out there that's going to reinvest back in us. And if we ever get that FU money I'm looking for, we will entice him to come back here. I will put that brewery back up in there, keep, whatever we got to do to make it happen, because you want to talk about a community place.
Yeah, we had Seth and David Canada there playing. We had all kinds of people. There was I know we had Caleb, and the other Caleb on spoons.
Caleb Flora. We have to give him a shout out, so I think we talk about him every
of course.
single.
He said something about you on Facebook today.
Yeah, he tagged me in something.
Tagged you in something.
Yeah, I saw that. He tagged me in something. Caleb, he's one of our biggest fans out there. He spreads the word just as much as anybody does. And oddly enough, about like Simon, he's some way connected to almost every single guest we've ever had on this show. And the stories are phenomenal. I wish we could get him to tell them one of these days, maybe next year on 4th of July.
Oh, no, don't do it on a 4th of July weekend, because that's going to turn into the complete shambles that it did last weekend, whenever it was, a few months ago.
While we're on local stuff, real quick, I wanted to let everybody know that I'm looking up the date right now, but Travis Tritt is coming back to the Salem Civic Center Thursday, October 19th. We should all go have an Appalachian podcast hangout. Crawford and Power will be opening. We've had them on the show before. We went over there and yes.
You're kidding.
Yes, Crawford. They opened for him last year, I believe, too, and we missed it because, my son was so young. But this year, I think we're going to get tickets and go.
For sure. Now, Cole, let me see. Colby Helms has just had his contracts and he's put his first single out.
Yes, he sure did. Go check out Colby T. Helms on Facebook. Great song. We shared it on our page. We're getting shadow banned over there, so you might haven't seen it, but if you go search for us, you can find it on there. Colby just released his. He's on his way up. I haven't had a chance to keep up with how, while we're on old guests, I haven't had a chance to keep up with how Terrell Basham has done so far for the Bengals. I haven't watched a lick of football despite being in 4 fantasy leagues. But I know Nick Robertson's doing pretty good. He's with the Boston Red Sox now. So if he sticks around with them up until next year, well, the Red Sox come and play in Baltimore about 12 times a year. So I'm thinking maybe a big road trip. Maybe we can do the old Butch, do a honor to Butch Moran and get up a Abbott bus or something and put a bunch of people on and go up for a night or two to watch 2 games to make sure we catch him one of those 2 nights. But so shout out to both of them. Go make sure you're keeping up with them. There's some local talent.
Now he's going to be part of the Red Sox Yankees
rivalry. Yes.
Rivalry. And who was the chap that I met and spent a couple of weeks with? He was the dude that busted the curse.
Oh, Johnny Damon.
It was Johnny Damon. I've got a mitt signed by Johnny Damon, which was so special. The guy was so unassuming. He was just an absolute gentleman. And at the peak of his game, where he just signed, we met him. Heather and I both met him, his wife, and his father and mother. They came out to our place in Turks and Caicos, And that's where I got to meet him. And he was just very humble, and having broken the curse, he was in the process, I think, whilst he was with us, of signing with the Yankees. And the irony there is not lost. But yeah, so Robinson is now going to be part of the Red Sox, Yankees, just
rivalry.
that rivalry, which is a very healthy rivalry.
Well, yeah, that's great,
may add.
and I like it that he's East Coast
Still
now. His
up,
family
yep.
can go catch him a whole lot more. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely, like I said, this is an Appalachian appreciation show for all the good things. So we're going to be, talking about a lot of cool stuff. I wanted to ask y'all two something though. Since y'all two are both well traveled, we just got off this subject. Where is the best place y'all have been in the world that you've gotten a beer and or a drink? I'll let you start first, Simon. Since
Oh, crikey. I mean, I have had so much
Yeah,
to
I was
drink
gonna say,
globally.
yeah.
That's a really tough one to put.
well, I'm
me
saying
on
from
the
here in the
spot.
States, I can tell you right now, I will take, as far as beer is concerned, I will take a German beer over anything.
Okay, I'll tell you where I'll go with this, and it's a local place outside of Dorking in Surrey. It's called the Plough at Cold Harbour. Now, I can go back to some of my go-to beers in England, but this particular place is tucked up in the hills of Surrey, and it's hard to find. It's hard to get to. Behind the pub is an old Iron Age hill fort that's been somewhat overgrown, but nonetheless, it was an old Iron Age hill fort. Some of the properties around there are so picturesque, but the the beer that we had, and it was brewed on the premises at the Plough at Cold Harbour, was a beer called Tallywhacker. And I got to tell you, that will just change your perspective on life. And it's just an old English pub,
Yeah.
with everything that you would want from an old English pub. Beams, old beams, brasses. It's just
What was this at again?
quintessential. It's called the Plough at Cold Harbour, and that's an old ancient.
Where's it at?
It's just outside of Dorking, Surrey.
Okay.
So it's in southwest sort of London area.
Okay.
Get outside a little bit further, just south of a place called Guildford. I always have very, very fond memories of that pub because it happened to be one of my locals.
Oh yeah.
So I would say that was a special moment there, and those memories you cherish.
Yeah.
And there were several pubs around there. The Abinger Hatch, what a great pub that was, just round the corner. The Volunteer, the King's Head at Holmbury St Mary. They all sound very fanciful, but these are genuine little hamlets and villages.
Yeah.
In the outskirts of Surrey that just hold such a special place for me.
Is that how it is out there in Europe? Most of the places just brew their own stuff.
No, not necessarily. What will happen out there is you will either be tied to a certain brewery that has its selection of ales and lagers and what have you, or you'll get a free house. Now, the free house gives the owner of the pub the option to select as many local beers that he can lay his hands on. So I'm a big promoter of the free house, not being a tied house. So you would just get that diversity of selection. And it was real ale. And real ale is, to me, the quintessential British beer. Yeah. And it's hugely diverse. Yeah, that's where I'd be.
Yeah. I don't think I really have one. I mean, as far as beer drinker even here, I'm very narrow. I got, you start talking IPAs and ales. I find something I like, but then I can't tell you, you could probably blindfold you and you could taste beer and be like, oh, this is this. But I'll say this, we talked about this, I think on a show before. When you we were in Dublin, Ireland, when you go to a pub in Dublin, Ireland, it's just like you see on the TV. People are in there singing those songs with their mugs of beer, swaying back and forth, spilling it. I mean, kid you not, it is.
It's a messy
There's no exaggeration there. They're in there singing those songs, jumping up and down on the tables, hitting their mugs, on the table, and just acting a fool.
Well, and the Irish have got a great thing going. I played rugby in Southern Ireland for a very, very short while. And I got the concept of, well, we've got happy hour. Happy hour lasted for 2, and that to me was quintessentially Irish. And that they also have in different areas of Ireland, it isn't just Guinness. There's a stout out there called Murphy's, which comes more from the south of Ireland. If you ever see it, get it, because it's very different from Guinness. And there's an even lesser known stout that's very famous in Ireland as well called Beamish. And they're very different, but beautiful. I mean, handcrafted. But the pub atmosphere has always been, particularly in Ireland. I went to a big music festival in a place called Clonmel. I think it was in County Tipperary. I think that's where it was. I got so wasted because an Irish chap tapped me over the shoulder having asked for a pint of Guinness that took 10 minutes to pour, I may add. He goes, "You can't be drinking that alone, sir." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" As soon as I said that, I've blown my cover. I'm an Englishman in Ireland. He goes, "Oh, you can't be drinking that alone." I said, "Well, explain." He goes, "You need to be drinking a Bushmills with it. So you got a whiskey chaser." Oh, Lord. We sat there for hours and the results were significant.
Oh, yeah.
But, and that really is the country's stamp of approval, and they're very cultural. The English and the Irish, the Welsh and the Scots, we all have wonderful pubs where you can be very socially active. It's a culture. You're brought up on that. My mother used to tell me, you spend way too much time in pubs. And this was, when I was 17 or 18. And I said, "Well, listen, Mum, I hate to break it to you, but if it was good enough for Dickens and Shakespeare, it's good enough."
Well, don't
for
they
me.
go? They go on the lunch break. Don't they go to the pub on the lunch break over there?
Oh, yeah.
And they go back to work.
Are they out there singing and dancing on their lunch break too?
Yeah, they go.
I spent, when I was working wearing a suit, which Billy has a bit of a conceptual issue here to overcome, I would spend my lunchtime and afternoons in pubs doing business. And that's just how it went. And the drink drive laws, the no smoking in pubs now, and they've been corporately taken over. But the true pub in the UK is still where you go Sunday lunchtime, Thursday night, whenever you please, and you can sit down, have a glass of ale, have some fine tucker, even though you may not agree with English food, Billy, being good food.
I've seen pictures of beans and toast. I think I'll just skip y'all and head to France. At least I can get a baguette and
their bacon is more like country ham.
That's Canada for you.
It's back bacon. It's back bacon. It's a very different thing. And that actually took some customization for me to go, hang about this bacon, that US bacon. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it.
Bacon.
But I was brought up on back bacon, which is a little bit more like a Canadian gammon. So it doesn't get quite as crispy and brittle and snappy and all of that good stuff.
More like country ham, but not so salty.
Yeah.
Unsalted.
But we have that here. We do have the cultural elements in Franklin County that are just as sweet, to the palate.
We've got a very nice mix of people. We've got, a lot of the Scots-Irish, they're bringing that little flavor here. A lot of German, I tell you what, German Baptist, you go to a German Baptist Christmas dinner or something like that, or a wedding, you ain't going to eat much better. We got a lot of soul food, which is basically just Southern food, and it ain't many places you can't go to get a good meal. This is like a perfect area because this is people got far enough away from the beaches. Like, we're gonna settle up here. So we had a lot of good people settle around this area, and they brought a lot of great traditions with them. So, all right, aside from let's not say the United States or the islands because you've lived there before, but and maybe not where you came from, but if anywhere else around you all have been to traveled, if you said, all right, I could live here, I'd be fine with that. Where would it be?
I would go on after you, John.
Oh, Australia, hands down.
Really?
Yes. And not just speak, well, a lot of it's got to do with the English. They're already speaking English there, but Australia reminded me of the United States back in the 80s, back when Simon's got a flat tire. Well, before he knows it, it's going to be 3 people going to be stopping to help you change that tire. You might even have to get out of the car. I kid you not. The ladies walking down the street 1, 2 o'clock in the morning by themselves, just safe, and just people want to help you, and they're so laid back. It's like they're trying to be, they're about 4 years behind us. I was down there watching Big Bang Theory, and they were like, this is the new episode of Big Bang Theory. And I was like, oh no, this is the one, I was like, wait a minute, this one's like 2 seasons ago. So, they're coming along, but it just reminds me of, a time when you wasn't afraid to stop and help somebody and afraid that it could be a trap. So you might get robbed. Or if say Simon didn't have a jack and I let him borrow my jack and something happened and his car got damaged, he's not going to, you know what I mean? So they don't treat each other like that. They're really helpful, And
my twin brother lives in New Zealand and and that really, I haven't visited there yet. I say yet. I think if I went there, I'd struggle to come back.
Yeah, I didn't want to come back.
Yeah. But with your original question there, Billy, the place that really struck a chord with me was Bermuda. I absolutely
Well, hold on now. That constitutes as like an island place, right? Bermuda's just out there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I said no island place. You lived in the islands. You can't. I want something else more international. The islands that's easy. That's John had the right idea. I mean,
I'll give you another one too. That I'll say because let's just say Australia's really close to the United States. Let me give you another one. I would go to Thailand. When you're there, everybody is so friendly. They don't get mad at you for not speaking their native tongue. If you have a problem, they're going to help you. They hear
actually want to speak English.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, they want to talk to you in English. And so everywhere we went, if I would go to the mall, if I would go to anywhere, even when we were on the train, the people got up out of their seats on the train and gave us their seats. When you go into the Walmart or for whatever, you go into the mall, the man standing there and opens the door and he greets you as if you're walking into his house.
Yeah.
Not just his job or not just at the store. They treat you wherever they are like you're a guest, and they want to treat you like first. Yeah,
people should be treated if you're going in there and spending money.
Everywhere you go, and even if you're not spending money,
I'm walking into, which is very rare, when I'm walking there, I don't want to walk past some asshole who just looks like they hate their life.
Yeah,
be nice. You're a greeter. That's your job.
Oh yeah, and even the homeless people there. You wouldn't know they were homeless. Their cart or box is over there. That thing is crisp. It's sharp. They got the out front is clean. There's no trash. And we saw a few, and I was like, wait a minute. Well, maybe they weren't homeless, but it definitely looked like I won't call it a tent city, but it was a few people living.
Ramshackle.
There, yeah. And I was like, but his box is clean. I mean, it's crisp. And there's no trash. I mean, he's out there. They're just sweeping in front of it. I mean, they take care of what they have and appreciate it.
So I've got to come back and step back from Bermuda. I've spent, 3 years during the summer period. Yeah, I spent 3 years in Italy over the summer with the mega yacht thing, cruising around various port cities in Italy. And Italy holds a very special place in my heart. Number one, it's one of our first destinations that Heather and I spent on our honeymoon in Rome and Venice. So Italy definitely holds a very, very sweet spot for me. And there was a couple of, and I still have to go back to the islands. I'm obviously an island guy. There was a place off of there were two places in particular, Capri, which we've already spoken about in the past, but there was a small island out off of Napoli, Ischia and Ponza. And if I really want to shoot for the moon, Portofino was it was so beautiful. It's very tough to pick, these places because
each place has its own flavor.
Yeah.
So
and there was a certain element. There was in where was this? It was in West Africa, Point Noir in the Congo. There was a very cool place there as well. On the beach, on the Atlantic beach, in West Africa, that was just super, super cool. It had a very different flavour to it. Yeah, it's tough to pick one, Billy. I've got to tell you, it really is.
I'll tell you what. For me, I haven't done a lot of international travel other than to Iraq and Kuwait, and I spent some time in Qatar on a base. I don't even count that. And Kuwait was really just kind of pretty much on a base and driving around. I really got to develop a repertoire with the locals in Iraq more than anywhere else. And
it's all about trading in beer.
I'm going to tell you what, we've told the stories about to some of our old shows. Those people were great. Can't say enough about the people who supplied us with all the alcohol for an entire year over there. And for that, they never shot at us when we went through those neighborhoods. So, commerce goes along, capitalism really goes a long way. But as far as in the country, I think if we could pack up and move somewhere and not have and we didn't have family ties, Estes Park, Colorado, I think would be a phenomenal place to go. It's about an hour from Denver.
Yeah, I like Colorado,
but it's right outside of the Rocky Mountain National Park. Most people will recognize this town. The hotel on the in the town is the one that was based off the movie The Shining. If you ever saw that with Jack Nicholson and Stephen King movie, here's Johnny, all that whole deal. So I think Estes Park is where I would go. It's the cold weather might bug me a little bit, but aside from that, I think I'd have a good time out there. Because I'm a big fan of the Colorado Avalanche, so I got the hockey in town. You got all your big wig stuff is about an hour from Denver. Not that I care about the big city like that, but it's like a town you see in a movie. You go through there, you don't see when you're coming down over the mountain and you see it, you don't see a bunch of freaking Walmart signs and Target. I'm sure they got that stuff, but it's not, it's just
the big sky country has always attracted me. Now, whether I have figured out yet, and because I haven't spent time there, whether it would be Wyoming, Montana, Utah, who knows?
Oh, those states are beautiful, man. Those flyover states, they are so underrated, man. Those states are. I
would struggle to say in another life I wouldn't have chosen there.
Utah for me.
But what I will say,
Utah's
gorgeous.
Yeah. What I will say is that of all the places I've lived, and being able to reflect upon with such great times, I still think Callaway is off the chart.
Where?
Callaway, Virginia.
Well,
there's something very special about Callaway.
Well, that goes without saying. I think you ask me where I want to live, I'm going to pick this place for the rest of my life. I love it here. I got family, got roots, but yeah, Callaway's.
The foothills of the Blue Ridge. It does not get any better, in my opinion. You're all right. So to be able to live up on the ski slopes of Courchevel, Maribel.
We're in a good position. We're a day's drive. You could do a day trip to Snowshoe. You could do a day trip to the beach. You're right in the middle
right there. And we're to be on the eastern side of the foothills. Is such an advantageous position for climate and bad weather that it always seems to run up, on the western side. So for me, I have found peace in Callaway.
That's good,
and that's a good thing. I've had a few demons chasing me here and there, But I am at peace in Callaway.
Yeah, I don't think I'd change it for anything else. Not this area, you know, and once again, that's the whole reason we started the show, to be able to promote this area, because we love it so much. If I didn't like it here, I wouldn't talk so much about it. Not that I really want a lot of people moving here, but I do want you to come here and spend your money. And if you're really awesome, maybe we'll try and find you a place and stick around and hang out. We just don't bring your BS nonsense around here. We're trying to rid ourselves of government overreach and this nonsense. So we don't want more. But aside from that, you know, we're so blessed. You know, we don't up here, and especially, you know, Appalachia reaches far and wide. You know, talking about northern Alabama all the way up to Maine. And if you want to get technical about it, I'm pretty sure that mountain chain runs under the ocean and picks back up somewhere over there in La La Land, where Simon is from.
Well, the mountain ranges actually from the Caledonians in Scotland are identical to the makeup of the Appalachian Mountains. I mean, you know, geologically, they are connected. So, you know, whenever it happened, that same feature is there. Now, there's a part of Scotland that I actually still haven't explored fully. But what I have seen of Scotland is it's just a rugged, rural, mountainous, tribal area, you know, and that's very cool. And this is what we have here. You know, with the Scots-Irish, it's that same cultural mentality that you know has made the Atlantic crossing, in my mind, with the immigration from Scotland and Ireland, and to a certain extent a lot of the English. So, you know, I think the Eastern Seaboard, there's some beautiful places here. For me to explore 52 states, or 50 states, 50 states,
50 stars.
the 50 continental
48
continental states. I've got to get it right somehow. That's a lifetime in itself to explore all of them.
It is, yeah.
You know,
I just did. I got all 40. I got 48. All the lower 40. I don't have.
Yeah,
I have been to Alaska, and
I get confused with territories, and
it's hard to do, especially when you get out. If you're driving, it's such a far. Even those flower states, there's so far between everything. You know,
it's immense.
Yeah,
immense.
You're driving between
just
those,
to drive across Texas.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you could drive in Texas all day and still be in Texas.
And still be in Texas.
Yeah, still be in Texas.
I mean, it's crazy, but you know, the States does have an enormous amount to offer, with its diversity, and that's just geographical diversity.
I said the same thing because, you know, being a world traveler, I'm thinking, well, you know, we go over here. I've seen all 7 wonders. So, you know, we go over here to Egypt, we got pyramids. We go down here, we got Machu, we got the. It's like, I kept telling, I said, but there's nothing here in the United States. Like, what, you know, why are people coming here? But until I did my cross country 2 years ago in the RV, and I got to actually put boots on the ground, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't know this was here. Like we went here, and I was like, had no idea that the United States had this much to offer as far as a, you know, destination place. I mean, you know, it's a home turf, but at the same time, like I said, there's no pyramids here. There's no, you know,
but there's some of those civilizations, you know, out west, where they're not really sure who lived there in these caves that they made into metropolises.
Yeah,
I think in Arizona there's a good few in there.
Oh yeah, Arizona's beautiful too. You know, those rocks. Yeah. It's that whole southwest corner. I was really impressed. That's
it's a place I haven't been to, and I look forward to exploring it.
Yeah, well, back to what I was saying about this area and the Appalachian chain, as far and wide out as it extends. I think right here, just in this area, it's a hidden gem, because we're not getting earthquakes here. None are really going to do any kind of damage. Tornadoes can't really pick up enough steam to do too much kind of damage. Hurricanes always die out before we get here, and for the most part, especially where we're at, flooding can't be. You know, it's not an issue because most of the rivers are just running in between mountains. So
downtown Roanoke may have something
downtown
to say
Roanoke,
about that.
but and some parts of Salem and whatnot. But that's not us. We're not here in Franklin County. So, but I mean, overall, and now granted, when you start getting into coal country and stuff, you get a mad rainstorm there, you can wash out entire valleys just because it fills up so fast. But here, right here in Franklin County, moonshine capital of the world, we've got the best of the climates.
Yeah, you get all 4 seasons.
Get all 4 seasons. We're a handful of hours away from the beach in one direction, like John said earlier. We're a handful of hours away from 3 or 4 different mountains to go snow skiing on in the other direction. You've got beautiful hiking trails, beautiful people. You've got great food, great beer. I mean,
great culture, great music.
We're a few hours away from DC, a few hours away from Charlotte, a few hours, so you can get anything you ever want. Anything you ever want, you're within not even a day's drive. You're a half a day's drive.
Well, there's a lot of people moving to this area. We're in a couple of mommy groups and stuff like that because we're, like Billy, we wait a little later in life to have kids. So all of our friends are all, their kids are all grown. So we're finding ourselves around a lot of younger parents. And so there's a bunch of groups, but there's several people that even my wife was like, they were like, yeah, we came to Roanoke for such and such, and we just fell in love, or, Rocky Mount, and they're moving, Boone's Mill, well, I don't know about Rocky Mount, but like Boone's Mill or whatever. Maybe they came to Rocky Mount and wanted to be close to Roanoke, so maybe they went to Boone's Mill. But just imagine how many people actually come to this area from like other areas and find it just amazing.
And there's a negative.
Case in point right here with Simon.
Simon,
he's been all over the world and decided to come up here
and just loved it.
Yeah.
The impact of that, and now we're getting back into that whole taxation element, and I'm not going to dwell on it at all. But what they're looking at doing now is assessing our property values because of that popularity, and increasing these property values. I think arbitrarily, and this will ultimately impact all of us. They've
already done it in Roanoke. I got my house payment went up, I think, $70 a month.
Yep, and then
last year
that also equates to your insurance premium.
Yeah, it does. It went up too. Yep.
So
same thing with vehicles and everything else. Yeah,
exactly.
Trucking, insurance.
So we've to have that success it's a double-edged sword.
It is. Yeah.
And we've got to be very careful about how we price ourselves out of a market by taxation. And I think local government needs to be very cognizant of that, because if you go too heavy, you'll get exactly what happened elsewhere, where you'll see a transition of, screw you.
We're fighting so many battles right now on a national level and an international level and
the
a state
economy,
level.
we are all broke.
Yes, we are very broke.
And this is something that concerns me enormously here, is that when that government hand gets in the cookie jar and manipulates statistics to say, oh, well, your property values have gone up 25%, therefore we know where it's going. And I don't think that's right. There has to be a better way of generating, I hate to say it, taxable income that doesn't impact the local resident. And we're going to see that in Maui big time, because you know what's going to happen there with vacant lots, and how they assess land values and all that sort of stuff. It is not a bottomless pit. We are not your piggy bank.
I saw a thing that said United States land of the worker bees.
Well, and that's a very sad reflection, isn't it? When you look at so many memes that come out now about taxation, quality of life, we're being taxed for this, taxed for that, taxed for everything. For our 40 to 80 hour work week, we end up dropping dead, and we still end up paying, the government some form of taxation.
Let's say 50 cents on every dollar by the time you calculate, sales, income, personal properties,
and when is enough? Because now we're in a situation where I think we're feeding the beast, and the beast has got us.
Oh, the beast is starting to starve too, and
Yeah, but
something's going to have to. I mean, this is not sustainable. It's just not.
Of course, it isn't.
It's not sustainable.
You've gone from where? What was the figure I heard?
We're 33 trillion as a country in debt at this point in time.
In the last 16 years, we've gone from 5 trillion to 33 trillion. And this is with a multitude of red and blue idiots that are really driving that taxation and debt. And when is enough enough? You know, and everyone's going to swing around and say, oh, but if I don't vote for red or blue, or if I vote for the Libertarians, it's going to be a vote wasted. No, it isn't. Because that's what they're relying upon. A divided society isn't going to allow for a third party to actually have a fair crack at a whip. And we're not in a two-party state. I hate to tell everyone, we're in a one-party state, and if we don't wake up and try and crush the one-party system, which is what we've got, we are doomed. This is Rome. And I hope as a community here locally, we have the resources and ability to fend that shit off. And I think we do.
Well, yeah, and that's what you do with shows like this. You get together and you promote and highlight your community, and you strengthen yourselves and you solidify yourselves, so that way when it does hit the fan and times do get really hard, you got people to count on. You got people you can go get meat from. You got people you can go get produce from, and you might have to trade favors. You might not be able to use your traditional currency, but when you develop those relationships, that's all that matters. You know, you might have to trade your time to somebody else who trade their time to this person just to all make it work. But if you give people confidence and something to believe in, that's all you really have to do. And you can't beat a message. You can't kill a spirit. That's the Taliban.
The biggest threat that we are encountering at this very current moment in time is digitalization of our currency. And I'm going to our listeners have pretty much got a grasp on how bad that is. But we have to reject the digital currency. It's one of the checks and balances that I think we have against overtaxation, is cash. And I hate to say that out loud, because, there is nefarious methods in which you can do this. Because, when you're not paying tax, effectively, you're breaking the law. But it's their law of theft that you're breaking. Now, on a moral standpoint, I know where I stand. So if we need to be able to reject a digital currency and a cashless society, because it gives all the power to the very government and governance.
They can turn your stuff off.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can turn everything off.
It's a very, very, very dangerous tool.
Well, I think that's why they're pushing for the electric cars so much. What better way?
Yeah, you can shut those down.
It's like, hey, you don't pay your taxes on time, or you don't do this on time. So it's not just shutting your car down. It's you get in your car to go to work, and it locks the doors and say rerouting you to the police station.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then they take you there. And
I think that's a little bit of a red herring to a certain extent, because the infrastructure that we currently have, which is falling apart, cannot.
It can't support it. But I think. Depending on what happens,
the concept behind a digital currency is inherently evil.
We're already there, pretty much. Everybody.
Well, no, we're not.
We're close. Pretty much everybody uses debit card. I mean, we still have cash in our society, and we should use it as much as we can.
Pay cash,
exactly, and work under the table as much as you can. Cut the government out. If I got an issue, I don't want to send my give your buddies cash, hook them up with a favor, do anything you can do to cut the middleman out. And that's all the government is a middleman with their hand out saying, you need me here to do this so I can justify my existence.
The hand isn't out. The hand is already in your pocket.
Yep.
So
and it's not doing what you want it to do in your pocket.
No, not even remotely close. So, this would be a great rejection of government is to reject a cashless society. And it may be very convenient, but the convenience of debit cards, credit cards, whatever it may be, is already adding anywhere between 3 and 5% to your bill, which is incorporated in the thieving bastards that run the credit card companies, because that is their fee. So don't think, the retailer is maybe charging $10 for something. 3% of that money automatically goes to the credit card company.
Yeah, I think they get like it's like 0.something% on if you got like a machine, like Walmart's machine. My machine, I run one, I pay 2.75% if I run a credit card.
Right.
So it comes off, and it comes out of my money when they transfer it to me. So yeah, you're paying fees every time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that fee it's not part of your income. It's not part of anything that you can claim back in any form of tax submission with your when you submit your whatever tax filings you have. You cannot get it back. Mm-mm. All right, those fees are blind. Okay, so if you can pay cash and have a trading deal where the price differs, where this isn't the pharmaceutical company that has.
A lot of places aren't doing cash. Well, the gas stations will do it, but most people now, like even like in my industry, sometimes they'll do it a little cheaper for cash, but the fuel still costs what it costs, and it's they're trying to. I don't know.
But when it comes to time and labor, when it comes to dealing with plumbers, electricians, bricklayers, whatever it may be. You can get a very good deal by paying cash.
Especially if it's a small job. You have just coming over, hey.
And this is how we keep the money local. Again, we're dealing with local professionals. And this is something that, I'm looking to promote, because the tax man is a thief. Full stop. Period. That's all there is to it. Now, that apparently, from Spike's opinion, makes me a libertarian, and I embrace it. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump, bless him, when he said it, because he was honest enough to say it, I will pay, in quotes, as little tax as I can possibly get away with. And he was maligned for that. This is where we all should be, is paying as little tax as we can get away with. I'm not saying taxation is a bad thing, but what we've got now is outright theft. And if they can't make their books balance, why are we still paying into the system? Because it's a never-ending. It's a bottomless.
Yeah, it was. Warren Buffett said how he could clear it up in 5 minutes. He said that if those, what was it, congressman, if they had a national debt of X, Y, and Z, that you're not eligible for re-election. He said that would clear it up.
There's a certain element to this now, and the politicians and that government infrastructure has been very clever in how they craft that narrative, because what they will do will say, well, we are now $33 trillion in debt, which means that each person here, as a tax-paying citizen, whatever, is up to $400-something odd thousand each. So they're trying to apportion the tax, the trading deficit on the citizen. I think that's absolutely immoral. The trading deficit is responsible by the congressmen that are in control of the purse strings, not me individually, but them corporately. Now, there's a concept that they might want to grasp, because when the day of reckoning comes, it is their debt, not mine. Oops. That should be a bit of a bomb, because that's exactly how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. When you've got out of control spending, government overreach, everything about that, we're on the lowest part of the totem pole, and we're the ones that are being held accountable for it, which is absolutely preposterous. Mm-hmm. But, that's just my thought as a little minnow in this pond of sharks and nest of vipers.
Mm-hmm. Well, to sway away from that for a minute, John, I guess kind of tied into that, you have become a 2-time daddy here since the last time we've had you on this show here. And
Congratulations.
yeah, how is the world of being a 2-time daddy and now a daddy of a little girl and a little boy? Because you're following our path.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of interested in seeing.
It's definitely a different dynamic. My son, he's 18 weeks and he's 20 pounds.
Good God.
Yeah, he's tall too. He's almost
bruiser.
Yeah, Jade is about at 30 pounds, and she's about to turn 3. He's I forget how tall he is. We went to the doctor. He's long too. He's not wide like me. He doesn't have this.
Well,
that's
long.
Yeah, he's long.
Right
so
there.
he's solid. He's going to be solid. So we're going to have a Derrick Henry on our hands.
Right.
It's been a different dynamic. I mean, like I said, going from a girl to a boy, I know kind of how to do everything, but the diaper changes are different. Just the way you go about things. In the end, I'm just more comfortable now. I kind of handle him like a loaf of bread. I'm sitting over here. I got him, in one arm. I'm kind of, what I'm saying? You're more comfortable. So
I don't have a boy. And I tell you what, because I was such a horrendous boy, because I had my twin brother, we were the mafia. And it was not good. It was not good. We were dreadful.
Well, I think it's weird how the dynamics go of who ends up getting the girls and the boys. I mean, take for example, failed musician Josh Grice from the Harwell Grice Band, who once again being the Appalachian Appreciation Show. Thank them very much for allowing us to use our music to come in and out of just about every show we've done. I take a lot of pride in being able to say that more people have listened to Josh Grice's terrible music because of me than they ever have because of him. But he hasn't been able to produce an heir to his throne. I mean, a male version. He's had, he's had all girls and
you misogynistic pig.
And I'm just saying the Grice name will not continue through him.
Well,
and
my son is
he should be
the last Clements in my last name.
Exactly. So John,
he's the last one. I was the last one now. But I'm not putting any pressure on him. I wasn't letting the pressure get to me, and I said, when it happens, it happens. If it don't, y'all had a lot of time to get that situation figured out and straightened out.
Well, my son right now is the last riddle in mine. My cousin Austin and my brother potentially still could have other children. I don't think my brother wants to, so I doubt he will. Austin, who knows? But right now, my son is the last in the line. And once again, no pressure, because I wouldn't trade my daughter for anything in the world. I don't really give a rat's ass.
Well, like
about
I said, they had decades to fix it.
Well, the misogynistic element of the male carrying the line is.
It's not misogynistic. Come on now. What kind of a progressive word? How much liquor have you drank tonight to use a progressive term like misogynistic? It's not misogynistic. It's about legacy. It's about that name carrying on.
But is it about name or is it about bloodline and character?
Well, no, bloodline doesn't matter when it comes to the female, because the female is going to be able to carry on the bloodline. You can have grandkids with different names. It's all going to be the same. But that last name, I think and that's not like it's to anybody. And I know it's different strokes for different folks, but I think it's pretty important, as far as we are around here. Now, for you, it's a little bit different. You're not from around here. You don't have, but the Riddle name, it'll go back a couple of generations in this neck of the woods. So for us, it's, it's a little, I think everybody has a different outlook for it. But for me, for the most part, I just like giving people shit about it. At the end of the day, it's such a different experience. So, and John being such a when you have that first one, and that first one just steals your heart, Yeah. And then when that second one comes, you're trying to figure out how to still balance all that love for the first one and then still throw it to that second.
I think because the first one was a girl too. I think that the dynamic between a daughter, well,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I can say until my son came along, I didn't realize how the daughter is such a powerful, effect on the dad, on the father. When Jade cried, the second she cried, I jumped at the hospital, right? I jumped. I was like, and then when my son cried, my wife jumped. She had C-section, but she jumped. I didn't move. I was like, not to say that I didn't think. I don't know what it was. It was just a different, and the whole experience was different, but it was I knew what to expect the second time too.
That's actually very interesting because when you look at the Jewish relationship with the bloodline, it's very much on the female line. The female line actually is the controller of the Jewish bloodline, which is fascinating to me because it's a complete reverse. Topic of conversation, change. It's very interesting.
Well, it's definitely, and I think what the you're going to have a daddy's girl and a mama's boy. I think that's how the dynamic is typically going to go, mainly because and I'm speaking from my experience here, but you look at your daughter and you're like, all right, I know what kind of a shitbag I was when I was young. I want to make sure that I protect her from people like me for the rest of her life. So I'm gonna treat her well. And for everybody out there who's got daughters, if you buy your wife Valentine's flowers, get them for your daughter too. Let her know. And
Absolutely.
Amos does a good job at this too. Shout out to Amos, Blackwater Building and Custom Woodworking. Anything take a toothpick, he'll turn it into a cane. Been on the show many times, good friends, everybody here. His daughter, every time he does that, he buys his wife something, his daughter something. Let her know. Let your daughter know at a young age what to expect from a guy, and that way she'll pick a good one. But my biggest hope for my daughter is she finds somebody like me, and my biggest fear for my daughter is she finds somebody like me.
Roger that.
It really is. So,
yeah.
But it's a daddy's girl and it's a mama's boy thing. So we want to protect that girl because we see us out there. Yeah. As a deterrent for them. And same thing with mommies. Mommies is like, mommy's gonna be a little bit harder on the girl because she's like, oh, I know your BS. I invented that BS. Mm-hmm. I'm the same with my son. Like, I know that trick. I invented that trick. So you're gonna have sympaty for the other one. I think
yin and yang.
It is. It really is. But for us, I've noticed, and John, you'll probably notice as he gets a little bit older, maybe it's different for everybody else, but like with her, we got all the child locks and the safety locks and took all the precautions, and she never even fooled with us, never even tried. With him, he will rip the safety locks off. He throws stuff in the toilet she never did. He throws stuff off the staircase she never did. He throws stuff down the cat door she never did. He is destructive. Like when they first started walking, he is climbing around the time that she actually started walking. She was more methodical about it. She's like, well, I can't really master this right now. Let me master this crawling first. Then I'll master him. It's like, oh, I took a step. Let's try and walk up a step. So let's climb a tree. Just boys and girls.
Jade. She never crawled. She went straight to walking.
He loves, he loves cars. He loves loud noises. He loves tractors, things she never liked. Like, I know everybody these days, and not to get off on much of a cultural tangent, but so many people out there, I think, look at kids as accessories these days, and they don't look at them as legacies and children. They look at them as, oh, it's like another freaking Vera Bradley bag to them. You know what I mean? The way they're project, it's like 20 years ago, it's like you project on your kids, oh, get out there and play baseball, son, and kick ass, and you want your kid to do. Nowadays, it's you dress your kid up as this or that. Just let your kids be themselves, and you will see how natural they come out. Like, she is all about the girly things, and all their toys are mixed up. You know what I mean? Like, he's about the manly things, she's about the girly things. And this is just a small sample size, but it's amazing to watch how different they really are, but at the same time, how much alike they are. And it's going to really get fun for you in the near future.
See, Jay doesn't like the girly stuff either. You put her down and say, hey, go pick out a toy. She's going down to the car house. She's going to pick out a truck or something like that.
There you go.
She doesn't like the doll stuff.
And we had Charlotte swimming before she was walking. Now that was awesome.
I got to figure that out. I need to actually take Claire over there for lessons.
I got a place I can take you. We got Jaden. We were at the Y.
Oh, I saw you over there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You know what? That pallet is still sitting there. They ain't moved that thing.
Kid.
We say that. I helped Billy. Billy was. I saw the mullet backing in the door over the. There's a swim lesson place over on next to was it Oak Grove, next to the food line over there, next to Highlander Pizza over there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I recognize that mullet. I went and grabbed the strap. I think it took him a while to realize who I was.
I couldn't see him. I didn't know.
I grabbed the strap on the box. It was kind of bulky trying to come to the door, and it took him a minute. We were about halfway across the room, I think, before he even realized who I was.
Well, yeah, because I had my deliveries and stuff, and I was at work, and I get in there, and then like I said, I'm sitting there struggling to get it through the door, and everybody's sitting there watching me. And then some kind stranger comes over there and helps me out. And I drag it a few feet, and I hear him talk. I'm like, wait a minute. I turn around. I say, wait, that must. And our daughter actually went over there too and swam her first couple of times. Yep. But I would now. We had to take a break from that because COVID actually screwed all that kind of stuff up.
That place is a little rugged. It's not. It's kind of hardcore.
My daughter now, I mean, she's 19. She's at Virginia Western. She works at the British Swim Club in Roanoke as an instructor, and she's actually got the British Swim Club, and she's able to now teach the kids at the retreat pool in Callaway. So yeah, I again reach out to everyone.
Yeah, I want her to go over there and support y'all, obviously.
Well, I mean, the fact that British Swim Club from Roanoke came and authorised my daughter to be able to teach people to swim. I mean, I'm not talking about, the likes of you and I. She can put a 2-year-old in a pool and teach them to swim. That is a gift.
Yeah.
So, power to her for taking that on board. I mean, where she goes with it, I don't know. I mean, she'll end up, I think, is it, what's the one down in South Carolina, East
Carolina?
Coastal Carolina?
Coastal Carolina.
It's Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, she's going to end up down there, I think, doing marine biology.
Okay. She's going to stay at Western for 2 years and then go? Or?
Yep. That's
smart. Hey, their baseball program down there, head coach is from Franklin County, Gary Gilmore, national champion, actually winning coach, too. He won a national championship at that school. Coastal's I don't know much about the school, but it's not in a terrible, awful area, and it's close enough to be able to get back home. And if your daughter ever wants to get a lesson on how to operate a gravy train to get from Franklin
to Myrtle Beach in 3 hours,
you can get down there, and actually probably even faster. If we could have made that trip in probably 2.5 hours, the way the interstate's set up now, because when you get down there, 73 cuts straight over. You knock off 20 minutes there. You knock off probably another 20 minutes down south of Rockingham. We've told that story before.
Yeah, you knock out 18 minutes just in Greensboro.
You ever heard that one, Simon?
Minutes,
no, come
on. The
gravy
gravy train?
No, I haven't.
We've told this story on this show because we had John on a handful of times, but
going down or coming back? Well, I guess
should we do both?
Well, basically, what we did was we had how many vehicles? Like 9 vehicles going to Myrtle Beach.
That's a convoy.
Right after my graduation in 2000.
We all had CBs.
Oh, Dick, we got ourselves a convoy.
You got ourselves a convoy. I was in the middle going down because I had the biggest CB, so the people in the back couldn't talk to the people in the front, so I was kind of relaying.
Right.
But I forget who was in the front. I take it back. We all took turns. We took turns.
No. Whoever had the radar detector, I think, was in the front.
Well, I think.
Oh no, not illegal in Virginia.
Well, we weren't in Virginia for most of it.
Honestly, they worked better in Virginia anyway. But
Roger that.
Yeah, but Well, anyway, we made it from here. Where did we start from? We met at the high school.
We all met at the high school. Do you know where the Dodge store is in Martinsville? Right there on the right, or right in Bassett, Dodge's store across from the Bojangles.
I know roughly.
Okay, 220 heading Martinsville. Yep. You got the Bojangles right there on the left. Across the street is the Dodge store. Now, for me especially, it's a tradition. Anytime I'm ever heading south, any trip, no matter if it's to Charlotte, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, always stop at the Dodge on the way out of town. Get gas if you have to, because it's always actually cheaper there than anywhere else.
Yeah,
but on top of that, you always get you a drink, a snack. So you have to stop there and do something. It's good luck. That is from Frank County High School. At your speed limit is probably a 25-minute trip. We got there in 10. We
warp speed, Captain.
Now, granted, this is back then. Back then, it usually took you at normal speed with a couple of stops. It'd probably take you anywhere between 5 and 5.5 hours to get to Myrtle Beach. We got there with 3 stops in 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. For 3 hours, 40 minutes, something like that.
Between Greensboro and Rockingham, that stretch of 220 south, that's fairly straight for the most part. We were probably averaging 103 miles an hour. We
had them stretched out. Yeah, that's right. Because Wesley was in that little that little Nissan truck. That little thing. I'm gonna tell you what. He took the air filter off. That thing was screaming. We were all shocked at how fast that truck was. We were like,
"How's he doing it?" That's sucking some air.
Yeah, he said, he took the air filter off of it.
We hauled ass, and we had the CB in the radar detection. Golden. So, get down to the beach. We have our big beach week, and obviously, from the trip down, we're like, well, let's just replicate it. Let's get back as fast.
Let's get back.
Yeah,
might even picked up a vehicle or two.
Yeah,
I think we might have had an extra vehicle to join in.
That's called the state trooper following you, trying to get your ass.
Well, we got about an hour, 45 minutes or so outside of Myrtle Beach in Matt Mullins, South Carolina, and we had a handful of vehicles all looked the same.
Yeah,
so we had.
I was in a Jeep. And Nathan was in a Jeep like mine's, different color.
And then Dean had a 4Runner, or he had a Rodeo, and I had a 4Runner, which were similar colors. And then there was a couple of sports cars in the mix. So they made this exit ramp off of 501, I think, heading off to whatever direction they were going around that part of South Carolina. And I guess the front vehicles were picked up by the state trooper running 98 miles an hour, 84. Or 90, whatever it was. Anyway, so the trooper ended up catching the back three cars. Well, it just so happened, unfortunately,
Billy was in the back three.
Yeah,
I was forced from the back, and he come up beside me, but I just kept my eyes on the road. I had tucked in front of a truck too, so
drafting.
I tucked in front of a truck, so I was acting like I was not. So I didn't get stopped.
And unfortunately, and I won't give away who had what, but the three back cars had strategically set aside three different things that could have got us all in a lot of trouble in different vehicles. One of the vehicles that was pulled over had all the moonshine in it. The other vehicle had the gun in it, and the other vehicle had all the marijuana in it. And those were all three the ones in the back, and he got all three of them. We
put them in the back for a reason. We figured we'd have gotten nicked before they did.
But what happened is he saw them.
Well, I think what happened was he actually saw me when he come off the ramp. I think I was the first one he saw. That's why I think he came up on my door. I think I was the first one he saw.
No, he saw the rest of them because after he pulled over and pulled us out, he said, I've been listening to y'all on the CB. I know y'all all together, and I didn't get the rest of you, but I got y'all three, essentially. And, we all three got – Fortunately, he was one of those guys who was like, all right, y'all are screwing up bad. I'm going to give you a ticket for it, but I know you're high schoolers probably getting done celebrating and stuff. I'm not going to ruin your life over this or search you or do all this kind of stuff. You were being stupid. So, we got the ticket and made it on back down the road. And we actually tried it again the next year, a little different scenario. Instead of going for speed the next year we went for grace. So we would have 8 cars in a line, and we would all be staggered. So we'd have one car in the left lane, one in the right lane, one in the left lane, one all the way back through. We'd be on our CBs, and we say 1, 2, 3, switch, and then we'd all switch.
Synchronized lane changing.
So people behind us were losing their. They didn't know what the hell
actually, it was a couple cars got involved too. Didn't have CBs. And then Aretha didn't have one either, but he picked it up. He figured it out.
That's a slick move, fellas.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
That is a slick move.
We had a ball. While we're on funny stories, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this one up, since this has kind of happened since John has been on the show, and especially since Simon has come on the show. But John retired from his truck job. We share the same job there for a long time and meet each other out quite a bit. Two different companies. And and here about 5 months ago or something, I was running one of my routes, and one of his former coworkers, I run across him.
This guy's a character.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Now apparently
straight face character.
Now apparently all these guys, Simon, they
what we do is we
talk on the phone all day.
Yeah,
right?
we talk on the phone. What we do, we have a number we call. It's like a conference. We used to do like a 3-way. Like I call you. So we were getting kicked off. It's say you were break. So we have a conference line. So it'd be anywhere between 5 and 7 drivers all on this conference line at one time, and we're listening to each other at different customers, and kind of like almost like, what's the show where they tell you to do something?
The pranksters. Yeah.
So some of this, a little bit of this is going on. We bring in, like, if say you're getting a telemarketer, we'll bring them in, and they're talking to So anyway, go ahead, Billy. That's kind of what goes on this line. So go ahead, Billy.
I had nowhere else. So I'm at a stop, and I guess I can. Can I say your old company, since you don't? Well, I won't even give these guys away. I won't do it because I'm hoping I'll get another story. But both of us work for,
my uniform was brown.
LTL companies out here. So all the time we're talking back and forth with other drivers, similar companies. You know how it goes. And I get on the dock and me and this guy start talking. I'm asking him how the new management's going over there and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and obviously anytime I come around these guys, I talk about John, because everybody knows John.
Same thing with Billy. I'm asking his, what
Excuse me.
He's setting you up.
You can any work out old Billy?
No, I'm not even setting him up. No. I start asking about John and I'm like, yeah, but I bet he's, enjoying retirement or whatever, blah, blah. And they're like, and somehow can't remember how it got on it, but the guy looks at me and I'm good with people. I'm good with reading people. I think this show is a testament to that. I've got a good eye for talent. I can sit down with somebody and figure out whether they're BSing me or not, and pretty quick.
Thank you, Billy.
Yes. I reckon I'm serious. I mean, I do. I mean, for whatever decisions I've made, it's working. But this guy, he looked at me with a straight face and he had me going so much that I was on the verge. I had John's number in my finger and I call him and talk to him about this before this guy's girlfriend hit me up. So I don't know how we got on the conversation, but I knew John had retired and looks at me, says, no, he didn't retire. He was fired. I was like, what? He was like, no, he got fired. I was like, and that I should have been my first red flag. It's like, you don't get fired and then I see you on your last day. Cause I saw John in Christiansburg on his last day. He was like, this is it for me. We showed up at the same place by chance. But I wasn't processing at the time because I'm not thinking that I need to be on guard for this kind of stuff. Yeah. He's like, no, he said he got fired. What are you talking about? So he retired. He's like, no. I said, no, brother. I said, I saw him his last day. We talked. He said, well, that was, and he had a good answer for it. He said, no, that's because of the unions and stuff, because he still had his process. What the hell did he get fired for? He said, he said he was caught in the bathroom with a supervisor. I was like, no, not John. And I was like, and I kind of hit me. We got talking. I was like,
a male supervisor.
Yeah.
Not even a female, a male supervisor.
Well, he said, yeah,
I'm biting my finger
because
right
that's
now.
what I asked him. I said, who? No, he loves his wife. Who in the world would he do that? Who? And
Why?
He was like, no, it was a guy. I was like, no. And he was like, yep. And this guy, through the entire story, and
he comes up with, I mean, it's so realistic. He's telling your story and it comes out so fluently and flowing, and the details and the little side details just all come together.
But he had other guys on the phone listening to the conversation too, feeding him things. So then I'm trying to rationalize this in my head because my first thought is, who in the hell tells a story like this to somebody? So I'm like, you don't do this, I don't think, unless it's true, or you've got some kind of reason to believe it's true. And I'm sitting there, and I'm other side, not John. No, this doesn't make. So all of a sudden, I'm conflicted. So then I'm trying to rationalize everything. I'm like, no, I said John's married, and he's got a wife and a kid, and he was like, oh no, she's a mail order bride, and I was like, well, she's not from the United States. Did John lie to me about this? You know what I'm saying? I'm now sitting there thinking, and then he starts talking about some Filipino boy he takes on.
Well, so I was on my RV road trip. Yep. I'm telling you the details. He said, yep.
And I mean,
Billy called me. He came home. I guess you came in and talked to Tara about it.
Yeah. I said, I said,
how do I approach this?
Yeah.
I mean, because, I'm saying,
and I could hear it in his voice when he called me on the phone. I said, I knew it wasn't good. I could hear it in Billy's voice when he called me on the phone. His voice was distressed. He was like, John, I gotta ask you. He's like, where are you at? I was like, dude, them guys are full of SH and IT.
They got me. I mean, they got me.
They do. They'll get you too.
Good.
They do.
I mean, how precise it was.
That's ruthless.
I mean, and probably a little taste of my own medicine because I've messed with people over. My buddy Nick Tabor. I want to get him and Brett on the show. Of course, once again, shout out to him because love him to death. What happened to his family a few weeks ago was a tragedy. But I want to get him and Brett and John back on here for that Radford show because we had so many good parties up at Radford.
Oh man,
talk about some of those times and stuff. I got tech guys on, mixing and all this kind of stuff. But I love those kind of stories. And like I said, I have given people hell over the years, and it came back because he had me dumbfounded for
Got ya.
2 hours.
He's a good story. Him and it's two guys I work with that will flat out have you on the floor balled up. They can really get it going. Yeah.
That's a talent.
It is the BS talent. I mean, it just flows. So it's like are you that full of sh? That it just flows out of you that naturally. Sometimes they do it. Sometimes they do it. Sometimes they go too far. I mean, don't get wrong, that's a joke. But it was one time they had a rumor going around that I had stole some fuel from the fuel bay at work, and I said, "Y'all understand? They'll fire you for that. Like, that's not funny." And they had everybody. Right, they had people from Conway, from XPO calling me. They had people. I had truck drivers from other companies again calling me too, talking about, man. He's like, "You still got a job?" Like, what are you talking about? "Oh, we heard you got caught stealing fuel." I'm like, who?
No.
How in the what in the world? And something like that gets back around. If you get fired for that's theft.
I know where that can go.
Exactly. That's not something to play with. Like, that's okay, to joke
well,
with
I think every now and then, if you do stuff like that quite a bit, at some point in time, you're probably going to take a little too far and not realize you're doing it because you get caught up in the moment. But oh God, they had me going. I don't. It's a fun world we live in. It's a fun job to be able to.
You should hear them when they'll merge the telemarketer in. Oh man, they'll
really.
I wish I could record some of those.
I'm actually pretty bad for that. My wife actually gets pretty tense when I get telemarketers on or these scam callers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're professing to be whatever they may be. And to me, that gives me the carte blanche to do and say anything I please.
Mm-hmm.
So I will question their parentage, their racial integrity, you name it, because I know that there's absolutely zero coming back at me.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the language that I use is absolutely shocking. But I have great fun with telemarketers. Telemarketers are the scum of the earth, and I let them know it. And I'll feed them. I will feed them. One of the latest ones was about, actually, this is one that happened maybe 10 days ago. We had someone called up, and I picked up the phone and went, I don't recognise the number. Anyway, answer it. So we're from immigration and customs or whatever department they were from. And we've intercepted a package from Mexico. And you are the recipient. I said, well, am I really? I said, well, can you tell me what's in the package? Well, actually, sir, it's some illicit drugs. I said, well, hang about. You've intercepted a package from Mexico illegally, and that's my cocaine. And I actually demand that I want that package back. And this went on for 10 or 15 minutes of back and forth. No, that is my cocaine. Mm. And it's come from Colombia. It's gone through a legal, postal service. It's been paid for. And I demand that my package of cocaine is actually delivered. Mm-hmm. And I had fun with this person for, as I say, 10 or 15 minutes. It was great fun. Mm-hmm. So play with them.
Yep.
Just completely
the longer you keep them on the, I figure the longer you keep them on the phone, the less time they have to scam somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you can just curse them out in any way, shape, or form that you see fit, because there is no recourse.
And you know what? Actually, I'm going to redact that statement. My nephew called me the other day with a concern, and this is a very plausible one. I don't think anybody's done it yet, but if these telemarketers call you and they can talk to you on the phone and record your voice, they can duplicate your voice. So I'm worried about that sometimes if they're going to start, when that's going to start happening.
Yeah,
they can duplicate your voice. Yeah, and then and they can call you and they can duplicate a voice. They can call your wife and talk to you, and she'll think she's talking to you.
This is about that AI technology taking over. So there is some very serious points of concern.
Well, that too. I didn't even think about the AI part of it.
Oh, it's an AI generated issue.
Didn't think about the AI. Yep.
Oh yeah, that's exactly where it's going. But needless to say, in this non-AI environment that is rapidly encroaching, having fun with these scamming
might as well.
bastards
Yeah.
is a lot.
Especially
of
the people with the call that, oh yeah, I want to sell your timeshare. I'm like, I don't own a timeshare, but I'll talk to you about it because I know you can't sell it and you wouldn't sell it and you can't do it. So yeah, I'll keep you occupied. Yeah.
Keep them occupied. Have fun with it. And also, you can have some great fun cussing people out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at that. I have a lot of fun, and it really pisses my wife off because I know Heather goes, just don't answer. I said, I can't help it. It's just too much fun.
Yeah, I don't even answer them anymore, but
Oh no, have fun with it, mate. It's all I can tell you. It's a great release because you can let everything go. There are no holds barred.
Mm-hmm.
You can come up. You can, like I say, there's no holds barred. You can go for them. Now, when you get them to come back at you swearing and cussing you've won.
You've won, yep.
You know, and it's a beautiful thing. I have a lot of fun with it. For my sick, twisted mind.
Yeah, I don't, that's just a lot of the fun we have with a lot of stuff we do. Do you, one more quick one. I know we've told this one. Do you know why they call him the Gingerbread Man?
I don't. And I was a little bit gingerbread manning about what's going on.
Or do you know the rhyme, how it goes?
Come on.
Well, you know that nursery rhyme or whatever it is? With
you could run just as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Gingerbread Man.
Right, okay. I mean, I've got a few years to think about that. So
Well,
it's going back a long ways, but yeah.
Back when we were in our late teens, early 20s, we all decided it would be a good idea to go all buy crotch rocket motorcycles. And I was always a more conservative one on the bikes. My brother and John were both pretty wild. They could go out there and do some crap. My brother,
Scott Mills.
yeah, Scott, a different level, but John, he ended up having one of his high speed chases.
Yeah. This was actually before the rest of you got your bikes. I was.
It was.
18.
This
I had
inspired us to get our bikes.
graduated high school. This was. Take it back. This was about this time of year, in 1999. It was pretty. I guess you call it severe police chase. It involved at least. Let's see. It was a state. I only saw one state trooper and two sheriff's deputies, but according to other people, there was about 5 or 6 state troopers, and I don't know how many sheriff's deputies, but
it was a hot.
I know. When I got finally, they caught up to me that evening. I was actually in my car, and I had eluded them, and had got to the house and changed clothes and everything, and was driving along in my car, and got pulled over, and anyways, went to the magistrate's office, but there was, it's probably about 15, 20 police officers that came through that made the circuit through. Here he is. And I was sitting in the chair. And here he is. They'd all been listening to the chase earlier on the radio.
Oh dear.
And so everybody knew about it, and there he was. And the cops gave me that nickname, Gingerbread Man.
Oh, that's
Franklin County Sheriff's.
Because he's going to recognize the roads. What was you coming from Roanoke, right?
Oh, yeah. I was coming from Roanoke. And I was going to make a right on 919 Grassy Hill Road.
Uh-huh.
And I figured, I said 919 is kind of straight. And, he's, that Crown Vic can stretch out on a...
Where did they initially shoot you at? Like Boonesville?
Well, they didn't shoot me for speeding. I was swerving in the construction zone. It was construction when they were straightening out the curve over there. There was, I don't remember if there was some debris or some oil. I was swerving around some stuff in the road. And I guess you thought I was drunk, but if you know a motorcycle, you don't. A drunk person's not going to swerve on a motorcycle.
Hell no.
I'm making the motorcycle change directions. So he tried to come pull me over, and by the time I saw him in my mirror when I got out of the construction, I'd already stood in on it. So I didn't see him. Coming. So I was already running. I don't know. He was catching up to me. So I'm figuring I'm already at like 85 or 90. I'm at 90, not running from him. I'm just driving. And I looked at him and I was like, wait a minute, I can't get pulled over at 90, going to jail. And took off. But, cause I don't know. It is a dumb thing to do, but
we've all done it.
Yeah.
We've all done it.
So,
I had a Kawasaki Ninja on the island.
I was on a Katana 600 at the time. My first bike.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So I turned around and came back and took a left on Bethlehem Road.
Know it well.
Okay, so I got to the end of Bethlehem Road, and twice I left the state trooper far enough to where I couldn't see him. I slowed down, and I was like, well, I guess this guy's still coming. So I get to the end of the road, right before you get to Callaway Road, and there was 2 sheriff's deputies that came out and was coming to me head on. And so I opted to turn around.
I know where you're at.
Yep, I opted to turn around and go back through the state trooper that I just passed. And then I took a left on Bethany Road and went down Bethany Road and made it. Well, I made a U-turn. I didn't know where I was at. At that point, I didn't know where I was at. At the time, I didn't know the roads like I do now. Made a U-turn and almost laid the bike over in a ditch trying to turn around. And I'm sitting there, and I was just like, you know what? I said, I'm done. I said, I'm going to go up here to the road. I'm going to give it up. I said, this gone on long enough. So I get back to Bethlehem Road, look left, look right, didn't see nobody.
Go.
Boop to the house. Gone.
Go.
And yeah, got pulled over in my car later that evening. I forget where I went. I went somewhere. I was on my way back home. But
if they haven't got you, if they've lost sight of you.
Trust me, I know what I know now. Should have never really got in any trouble over that, but is what it is. What? Young and dumb, didn't know any better.
And then a couple years later, we got at it again. We've told you that one before, though, right? The one from
headed to JMU,
James Madison, and
yes,
about 100. That was about 130 or 40 on that.
Oh, we were doing more than that. Y'all were topped out. They were maxed out. What was your bikes from? Y'all's bikes running with 140.
I was on. I'm not gonna mention his name because, but he had like it was a 600
something
Yamaha maybe.
Yeah, Yamaha blue one. It wasn't an R6, but it was a Yamaha.
Yeah, it was a Yamaha 600 because mine was at CJ.
David was on the R6. David was on R6,
and I was borrowing his because my other one had just been crashed by CJ, and that's before I got the Ninja ZX10R, the Kawasaki, and that's
my Ninja hit the power band at 11,000 RPM.
Yep. That's about what
11,000 RPM. And then it took off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was awesome. And I sold it. And thankfully, it paid for my wife's wedding dress.
Oh, good deal.
Well, that's not a bad gig. Where'd you get married at exactly?
Well, we got engaged. We were engaged in Turks and Caicos, and we came up to Hackettstown. And we were married in Green Township. And had our reception at Alamucci, which is a golf and country club, and it was superb. And I still drove a Jag out of there at 120. So yeah, less said about that, the better.
Well, it's probably a good time to go ahead and stop this because I got a long drive ahead of me. I know y'all both got to get back to your place. I've had a great time tonight. I really wanted this episode just to hang out with John. I ain't got to see him in a minute, and he's been such an integral part on this show, and he could speak to a lot of the things we're talking about locally and all the things we can appreciate. Look, Appalachia is we've talked about this many times, such a beautiful area. The people around here are great. You've got your assholes like you do anywhere else, but for the most part, most people are friendly. Most people are going to help you out. They're going to be your neighbors. There's a lot of people you can count on and trust, and there's a lot of great places to eat. I know we mentioned so many of them tonight. Once again, Buddy for Rocky Mountain Smokehouse has been such a huge part of this show, and I'm hoping we've got some big name guests coming back here to the county here in the near future. We can get him to cook for again. So, he helped us out big time the other week. So continue to throw his name out there, and of course, Rocky Mountain Burger Company with Brian. They've been such a big part of our success here by, coming on the show and hooking us up here and there and providing us with places and really helping us drive our brand. So we can't thank him enough. And then even some of the other people like Isaiah Rickman with Rickman Inc. If you need some good plumbing.
Oh yeah. Isaiah's a man.
Go see Isaiah. Isaiah's been a huge behind the scenes help to this show. I want to send as many people. And look, my stepdad, Layman's Electric and Plumbing, they do great work, on both ends, both master electrician. My stepdad.
Do they HVAC too? Don't they do HVAC too?
No, they don't do the HVAC. Okay. I mean, my stepdad is pretty much electric and plumbing version of Amos with the woodworking and the construction. So I mean, both of them they're geniuses at what they do. But like everywhere else, there's plenty of work to go around because nobody's doing these trades. And so plumbing, Isaiah is just as good as they are, and he's a good person to talk to and hang out. Give him a shout out, for Rickman Inc.
Huge actually shout out for Isaiah. He helped me in my time of need.
I remember hearing about that. Yep, they showed up and helped. I remember that.
He absolutely did. Isaiah, and he's got to see him last week up at
showed. I remember
there was a convoy.
Yeah,
there was a convoy.
I remember. Yeah,
it was a gravy train. Exactly what it was. Saw Isaiah a couple weeks ago for Josh Grice's 40th birthday party. Go up there and celebrate his horrible musicianship. Simon didn't get a chance. We talked about this a little last week, but Isaiah was up there, and I was hard on him. Isaiah is friends with a guy who was the first person to ever fly over both poles in a plane. And this guy still comes out and flies. I'm hoping to get him here to put him on. Just get here. Please sit down with us for 8 hours. We'll spread it off into 3 shows.
Just to dispel the flat earth theory. Oh, dare I? Oh, dare
Look, I ain't saying the earth is flat, but I don't believe it's a spinning ball globe because the government tells us to, and I'll stand on that firm. I don't believe anything the government tells us anyway. But hooking up Isaiah, Rick Manink, give him a shout for all your plumbing. Like all these people we support, we endorse, not because they give us anything, but because we know them personally and we know what kind of a service they offer, and we know what kind of the people they are, and we know what kind of families you're supporting by, choosing them. So,
I felt the love from, that whole Amos experience that put the convoy to help me in my time of need. There was Jonathan Barrett,
Brad Kennett, I believe.
There was Brad. There was
Longwork Solutions. Give him a look. He comes over here and makes my yard look good.
Deacon Sled came out huge. There was there were so many people. Ivan.
Outdoor
Carissa,
Longwork Solutions. Find them on Facebook.
The whole band that makes a community strong was there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what we do, and that's why we support these guys. My cousin Josh Pruitt Brothers Construction, they go around the country building all kinds of little, soft serve shops, Subway kind of places, things like that. And they also do phenomenal construction around here. They're very capable, like Amos is, when it comes to the customization and stuff. Find them on Facebook or give me a holler if you need some of those needs. Like there are so many people out here that are in need of these services, and we know a bunch of guys that do these same ones, and they don't mind spreading it around. They know they're already, all of them are run thin anyway. So any other opportunity we can have to support these people, to come into town, for all the people that give us their time, effort, and even the people that don't have businesses. Look, make sure you're keeping up with Terrell Basham and Nick Robertson and Colby Helms and Crawford and Power. Make sure you're going over to 5 Points, checking out Tyler. Make sure you're keeping up with Spike Cohen and our buddy at Being Libertarian. They've got great content online. They've got good messages. They're hooking us up with people all around the country that hopefully we're going to bring back to this area and invest in this area. Why not? I mean, these people are connected to millionaires and billionaires. I mean, everybody they're ever going to run across at these conventions are all kind of the same. We're different. Why not sit there and say, well, maybe these guys let's go down here and take some of our money and invest it. Let's have more Philip Baines show up. Let's have more Brians show up and put money into this community so we can balance it out nicely. I think we've got every opportunity. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
The world is our
here.
oyster, is all I can say. And our oyster is right here.
Absolutely. And John, thank you so much for coming on here. I want to get you on here more often. I know you're busy as all get out.
I've been able to do the last few times you've invited me. So
and with the little one, I know it's probably be a couple of years before it gets to the point, but hopefully, this thing's still just taking off. We're in our infant stages of this show, and our reach is growing. So hopefully in the future you can become, because you have such a great perspective. Like the more perspectives you have in here to sit down with an interesting guest, the better we're going to be.
Yeah.
And you've supported us monetarily, you've supported us sharing it and everything like that. So we appreciate all you've done over the years. Before we get off here on one more big announcement, Simon and John, you might know this guy. I have been, like I said, for anybody out there that's keeping up, Facebook is shadow banning the hell out of us. We can't get any kind of engagement on there. I've mentioned this a little bit earlier. Twitter for us is the place to be at right now. That's where the engagement's going to happen. That's where we're making our connections, and that's where we are, kind of pushing our brand the most. Twitter is pushing our brand on a regional and national level. Facebook is still there for everybody that's local, because that's where most of the locality, most of our older listeners, most of the people here. By the way, Stay Local Franklin County, go follow that page for all, the new information going around here. What an integral part of the show he's been as well. Thank him, for Nick and them, being a part of it. All the farmers we've had on here. But where was I going with that before I?
You was getting ready to ask me if I knew somebody.
Yeah. So anyway, Twitter, go follow Twitter for the engagement. That's where we're at for the engagement. Twitter pays us to go over there and promote our page, where Facebook takes money from me, and the only way they promote my stuff is if they take money. Other places, they don't do it because we post two-way memes, we post liberty-minded stuff. 10,000 followers, I'll post something, I'll get 2 likes. Twitter, I've got a third of those followers, and I'll post something and get 100 likes, maybe 20,000 people look at it. Anyway, back and forth those people in here. Do you recognize this guy? If you from all the nonsense that's been going on here, that's from January 6th.
Was this the guy from the White House?
Yes, or the Capitol on January 6th.
Oh, yeah, the guy. Okay, yeah.
He got that famous picture. There was him, and then there was a guy who was dressed in the buffalo guy or whatever like that.
That's the dude carrying the Pelosi's or the Speaker of the House's podium.
Yes. Well, that's him carrying an F-35 right there. Anyway. But that's Photoshop anyway. So anyway, sent that dude a message this evening. He recently followed us there on Facebook, and I said, man, love to have you come on the show at some point in time if you could. I don't know how far you are away, but he was like, I've got 5 kids and I'm busy for the next couple of months. But let's try and make it happen. And he was like, you got a cannon? I said,
oh yeah.
I said, we most certainly do. So, I mean, who knows if we'll get this guy on here or not, but the sheer fact that this guy was there for January 6th, I think he's been on Tim Pool's show. Just to hear his experience and talk about what it is to have that viral moment or whatever. And I think it'll be a really cool story for somebody that are on the ground to get their perspective to share it to everybody. I think it'll be really cool.
Here's a last shout out. And it's a little bit belatedly. Major Justin Sigmund, Sheriff's Department, is still in Clink down in Florida. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on down there. He has been lambasted by, I think, a certain DA down there that may be looking for a high profile. We certainly know that the FBI agent that is looking to press these charges is up and coming, looking to make a name for his or herself, whoever that entity is. My heart grieves, genuinely grieves, for Justin Sigmund and what is going on down there. I am appalled with the fact that he's incarcerated, and I find it very, very disturbing with such a trail of non-evidence, and the FBI once again is behind this. We need to get behind this man and demand his freedom. He apparently was given a plea deal, which he refused, and rightly so, because it is his integrity that he was looking to plead deal with. And he swung round and, by all accounts, gave them the bird, and they pushed his court date back even further. So whilst he's incarcerated, I would like to think that the good folks of Franklin County respect what this man has done, what he is, and acknowledge the fact that the FBI is doing him the grossest injustice, and the truth will out. And I hope he manages to sue their arses off, because something does not. It just doesn't. It doesn't pass a sniff test. And for all he's been torn to pieces. And that does not sit well with me. I hope he is a free man. I hope he can regain his reputation, and I hope to see him on the Sheriff's Department, back in his position, and he is vindicated. And I'll say that out loud.
Well, it's definitely a very touchy subject around here, which I can't imagine ever being put in that position and accused of something like that, especially if it wasn't true. Like I would be on a tear.
Absolutely.
It would be hard for me to find any kind of forgiveness or mercy for anybody that would accuse me of something like that if it was, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing about it is nowadays with, and this should scare people more than anything is nowadays with cameras everywhere, with people figuring out that they could push something enough to where enough people will believe it regardless. And we see that all the time with media and stuff that they can find any kind of way to go out here and destroy you. This isn't the 60s and 70s, but they don't got to put a bomb on your plane. They ain't got to shoot you going through Dallas. They can destroy you and your reputation through nonsense.
The new modus operandi of the FBI, and be very cautious when you hear this, is that someone was caught with child pornography on their laptop, device, whatever it may be. This is how they're stitching people up. And all of a sudden, the next thing that we'll probably see from the FBI is that they have downloaded child pornography onto his devices. This is how they work. This is the demon of a politicized DOJ and FBI. And it comes from the higher echelons. There is no question about it. But this is what we're being persecuted with, and to see one of our own under this microscope without any evidence to support it, in fact, to the contrary, should have us all very, very concerned.
Well, like I said, they take something, and they did this with Kyle Rittenhouse. They changed up narratives through different kind of optics and things of this nature, and they used different grainy images when they could have used precise. I mean, it's Spike shared this the other day on Twitter as well, and we reposted it. So if you want to find us at Get On Tap, go find it and scroll down a little bit. But it was of a man who had called the police in Kentucky somewhere and said that his 11-year-old daughter had been essentially talked into sending lewd photos. And so he calls the police. He's like, I want you to go find this guy. She was manipulated. The police show up 6 hours later, knock on the door, and this big-nosed, I'm not even going to say the C word that she is, and he's like, y'all are 6 hours late, and she starts arguing with him, and essentially comes to the point where she says, well, your child could be charged with distributing child pornography. And he's like, thank you, have a good day. It's like, this is why people don't support the police, and this is why people are terrified out here to even stand on any of their sides, is because you have people like showed up on the ring cam, show up while you're in a time of need where your child has just been. Now granted, there is some fault to go to the parents. Your child should not have been in that position in the first place, but no less, that's neither here nor there. The issue is that it's happened, and now there's a disgusting pervert on the other end who has nude photos of your child or explicit photos of your child, and you call the police who show up 6 hours late while your child is in bed, so now you can't question them. And you get mad at the father and say, well, your child could be charged with something like.
Oh, they did the same thing when I had to report I had a gun got stole out of my car. They showed up. You'd have thought I stole my own gun. Yep.
Really?
Yeah. That's been over 10 years ago.
Here in Franklin County, I think we've got a great system with the sheriff. We've got a great system, I think, with Rocky Mount Town Police. I know that they have done an outstanding job in taking up the disgusting precedent set by the Board of Supervisors not funding the sheriff to go to the
Christian Heritage.
So you're already sending a message of duality when it comes to protection of our kids. So the Board of Supervisors, that's a disgraceful narrative and optic that you're sending. But we've got great folks around here with the Sheriff's Department and the Rocky Mount Town Police. And to have one of their own getting hit by the FBI, quite frankly, is an absolute disgrace. And I hope we can all come together and support the guy when he does get out. We can, resurrect his career. But his reputation has been shot by the FBI and a certain DA in Florida. And I'm really disturbed by this. And this is what we need to do as a community, is to come out and put our heads on the chopping block. And mine's on the chopping block right now. I support Major Justin Sigmund.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop this show. And I appreciate you because, look, I know everybody's got their opinion out there, and you should be allowed to support somebody if you believe it. And you should be allowed to think what you want. But at the end of the day, you let the evidence come through and look at the evidence before you ever come to any kind of conclusion, because they have no problem out there running somebody through the coals and completely being wrong about it. And then 6 weeks later on the 7th page of the newspaper, run a retraction. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's in microprint.
Oh, sorry.
And
Is not good enough.
So, let's just nobody jump to conclusions, and let's just hope for the best. And at that, I want to say thank both of you for showing up here tonight. We've had a blast. We've got a lot of awesome stuff coming up here in the near future. A lot of great guests, a lot of opportunities to expand. Find us on Twitter at Get On Tap. We're also on Instagram and Facebook for the Appalachian Podcast. But like I said, we're being shadow banned over there, so I don't spend much time. You can catch our show releases there and trying to support local business and stuff. I will throw a couple dollars out there to promote a post if it involves a local business, because they've helped me out a lot, and I think that goes a long way. But and then patreon.com/getontap or at Get On Tap, Venmo and cash if you want to do a one-time donation here or there. Just found out one of those $5 donations I got after Tim Pool was from the lectern guy himself. He's like, "Did you get it?" I was like, "I had no idea it was you, brother, but I appreciate it." Apparently he's got family in Eastern Kentucky. He likes traveling. We'll get him up here and get hunting for a weekend and get him on the show. Maybe we can get Spike up that same weekend and do a bonfire and blow some stuff up there at Amos's. We'll get John down there for that one. So that's where you can find us. Thank you, boys, again, and we'll catch you next time.
Every time.
All right.
Signal while changing lanes. They pulled him over, found her cocaine. She said, "I love you, yes, I love you forevermore." If you tell that cocaine load is yours, he spent time locked up, she ran around, everyone knew it, small country town, while he lay rotten, Lord, she was blowing on his door. And the day they released him, well, he had nowhere to go. Lord, and it's ashes to ashes, and you know it's dust to dust. Just another low down woman that a man can't trust. she forgotten? Did she still care? He called up her mama, Lord, and these words ashes to ashes, and you know it's dust to dust. Just another low down woman that a man can't trust. In the spring, one sunny day, my good gal left me